of reducing phone usage when we're about to sleep, because it has an effect on the quality of our sleep. Just try it for 1 week. Don't take my word for it. Try it for 1 week. Try it for 2 weeks. Just make a habit of keeping your phone away when you're about to sleep, and you will see that the quality of your sleep would improve. Another recommendation also is the beddings, the bed sheets you use. Don't just go and buy the cheapest bed sheets in the store. Like, invest. A lot of us are looking very beautiful this morning. If we go and check your bed sheets, you've probably had it for so many years and the thing is crying and wants to give up. Invest in good quality bed sheets, because it improves the quality of your sleep. If you notice, when you change your bed sheet and you lay on it, there's this feeling of a smooth, clean. So invest in the quality of it will improve your sleep, okay? And if you're still having very severe difficulty, of course, there is also the medical side of it. If you're having very severe difficulty, you're unable to sleep and all that, that is what also getting checked out with your GP. I can see my time is running. I will just run very quickly to breast self-examination. Okay, so when we talk about breast self-examination, breast cancer, a lot of men, their ears just go off because they assume it's just a woman's thing and it's a woman's thing. Do you know that though it is rare, do you know that men also get breast cancer? Okay, though it is very rare, but that rare thing is still that rare. If it's I think it's 1 in 37, I believe, 1 in 37 men or so. Even if it's 1 in 37 or 1 in 1 million, that one is still a human being. Okay, so it still happens in men. Men also still get breast cancer. So let's just talk about breast self-examination. So the recommendation for women that are still having their periods is to ensure that they examine their breast. I believe 7 to 10 days after their period, when the breast is believed to be less lumpy and all that. The recommendation is you can do it in your bathroom when your hands are soapy and all, and using the pads of your fingers, you go around in a circular motion round the breast, and also remember to check underneath the armpit for any lumps or anything that just feels weird, okay? Also to remember to check behind the nipple and all that. And also standing in front of a mirror and having a look and seeing in terms of, is the breast looking lumpy? Is it looking strange? Is the color looking different? Is there some dimpling, what we call some dimpling and all that? Check it out. And if you see anything that doesn't look normal, please get it checked out through your GP. I know sometimes we'll say, no, it's nothing. Please just get it checked out, just so you're sure and that everything is also fine, okay? And also for men, it's also to ensure you do breast self-examination every month. I know it sounds weird, but it just literally takes you 5 minutes. You can just stand in front of your mirror, check and see that the breast is looking okay. There is no growth around the nipple and all that, and there is nothing looking weird on the chest, or that you're not having breasts developing all of a sudden as a man, okay? So please get that checked out, and just to rule out any abnormality from developing. As I said, the recommendation is to check between 5 to 10 days after the first day of the period for women, and the recommendation is to ensure you check out your breasts the same day for men, for instance, every month, or for women that are no longer having their periods, meaning women in menopause, for instance. Check out your breast the same day every month, just so you make a habit of it and you do not forget, okay? Lung health. Something very interesting I discovered when I was doing a bit of study about lung health. The rate of smoking in the UK is very, very high. Okay, a lot of us are exposed to cigarettes and vaping and all that, even if we do not smoke or we do not vape personally. Okay, and while I was doing a bit of research, I used to assume that if someone, for instance, was vaping or smoking in your vicinity and you open up the windows, you are fine. But apparently, it's been found that the contents or the constituents of the cigarette smoke remain in the air about at least 3 hours after the smoking episode has happened, even with the windows open. So the recommendation, and secondhand smoking is very dangerous. I have unfortunately seen a patient who doesn't smoke himself but had lung cancer from secondhand smoking. So it is quite serious. The recommendation is that you do not, of course, remain in the vicinity of people that are smoking as much as possible. I know that is easier said than done, because you can be at the bus station waiting for the bus, for instance, and someone besides you just starts smoking or whatever, or even be at work and someone beside you at work just starts smoking and all that. But as much as possible, let's be very mindful that secondhand smoking is a thing, and secondhand smoking is actually very, very dangerous as well. and can lead, unfortunately, to lung cancer. Gut health is my 7th point here. Our digestive system is very important, and it's been found that here in the UK, we do not take as much fiber or roughage as we should. Fiber is a very important part of our diet because it keeps things moving, okay? I know we are eating a lot of stuff through the day, but it is important that as we eat, it comes out. Garbage in, garbage out, okay? So it's very important that we need to increase our fiber content and our fiber diet just to keep things moving through our guts. And colon cancer is a very common cancer, even back home in Nigeria. I remember I was very shocked at how prevalent it was in Nigeria back home, and also in other parts of the African continent. Then coming back here in the UK, it's quite common as well. It's one of the leading causes of deaths from cancer, colon cancer. So let's ensure that if we're feeling any difference in terms of our guts and our reproductive system, we get that checked out as quickly as possible. All right, let's move very, very quickly. I think I've got about a few seconds to go. Next slide, please, and then I will just wrap up from here. Cardiovascular health. Our cardiovascular health is very important. The health of our hearts and the vessels of our body is very, very important. And it's been found that people of African descent, African, Caribbean, of course, South Asian, we seem to have an increased risk of getting cardiovascular diseases. That has been found from research. So having that in mind is not to put fear in our minds, but it's to remind us that the health of our hearts is very, very important. We need to actively reduce the amount of saturated fats we are consuming. Some of us think that you have to be physically obviously big, aka fats, to have a high cholesterol. That is not true. Some people are very slim but have a very high cholesterol, and that unfortunately can increase the chances of developing cardiovascular complications and diseases like stroke. All right, so we have to be very mindful of what we are consuming and what we are eating. Let's not just eat the fastest thing. That McDonald's fries, very salty, very delicious. Let's eat it in moderation. The oil, I remember at the last health talk, I think that was last year, and we were told in terms of reusing the cooking oil we use at home. We keep using it and using it and using it. The groundnut oil has lost all. It was first yellow when you first bought it. Now the thing is black. We still keep reusing it. The thing is smelling of fish, plantain, everything. Let's be very mindful of in terms of what we are consuming, okay? A lot of resources are, honestly, a very big problem is that a lot of us do not make our health our priority. Because there are a lot of resources available online for us in terms of discussing what is healthy for us and what is not healthy. The prevalence of cardiovascular diseases amongst the black population, I think personally, this is just my personal opinion, but I think a lot of this is because of a lot of us we've not taken extra steps in terms of watching what we eat and what we consume. So let's watch that, and hopefully the Lord will help us in Jesus' name. I'm wrapping up, and I will just talk very quickly about regular screening for prostate and cervix, because it's very important to highlight this before I wrap up. Cervical cancer is very, very common. Same with prostate cancer. Very, very common. Prostatic cancer is very common amongst the black population. For no apparent reason, they are still doing more research about that. But it's been found that black men, we'll talk about prostate cancer in my next slide, but black men have a very, very high risk of developing prostatic cancer. But let's talk about the cervical cancer for women. Now, the cervical cancer can be linked to what we call the HPV, the human papilloma virus. There are about 200 different types, I believe, of the HPV virus. Not all of them can lead to cervical cancer. So what happens is that here in the UK, they do what we call the cervical screening, and this is just to screen out and check for people that have a higher risk of developing cervical cancer. So what then happens? And for some people who do not know what I'm talking about, the cervix basically is connecting the uterus, which is the womb, to the vagina on the external part of the woman. Are we following so far? Yes. Okay, so that cervix is just that part, and it's cancer of the cervix is quite common. Here in the UK and even back home, I think I've seen quite a number of occurrences of cervical cancer. So what happens is that women go for the screening, which is called the pap smear. I know a lot of us here have probably done our pap smears. Please ensure that your pap smear is very regular and that you do it regularly, okay? So the pap smear is done, and what they just want to check is if a woman has the HPV virus. If they check there is no HPV, the woman is then told to come repeat the test in, I think, 3 years for, dependent on your age, or 5 years for menopausal women, I believe. And then if they find the HPV virus, they would then check the cells of the cervix. Now, if they find any difference, maybe if the cells of the cervix are not abnormal, but the woman just has the HPV, which is usually transmitted via sexual intercourse, oral sex, use of sex toys, penetrative sex, all forms of sex. That's how the HPV virus is mainly, that we are discussing in terms of cervical cancer. That's how it's mainly transmitted, okay? So, if they check and the woman has the HPV virus but has no abnormal change in her cervical cells, they would then ask her to probably come back in 1 year time or so, or 6 months or 1 year, dependent on your GP's dictates. 6 months or 1 year to come repeat the pap smear. Okay, why? This is because in a woman with a normal immunity, the immune system is able to fight off the HPV, and usually when they come back, they are fine and they are okay to go. But for instance, for women who are smoking, for women who have compromised immunity for whatever the case may be, or whatever instance, or maybe they keep being exposed to constant reinfection of the HPV, when they come back in 1 year or 6 months' time, they probably will still find the HPV, and then they will refer them to go get what we call a colposcopy, which is it's a more thorough test, just looking at the cervix and all that. Okay, so my recommendation for each and every one of us is that we ensure that our pap smears are done regularly. Your GP would probably inform you about when next your pap smear is due. If you haven't received a note or whatever from your GP, it is worth having a call or a conversation with your GP in terms of when your pap smear is due. There is also the HPV vaccine. I think it's about 1, 2, or 3 doses. Here in the UK, I think children are given the HPV vaccine in school, I believe. But it is worth having a discussion with your GP in terms of recommendations for you and getting the HPV vaccine. Okay, cervical cancer is very common, but it can be prevented if regular screening is done as it should be. I would quickly jump to prostate cancer. As I said, prostatic cancer is very common in men. It is one of the highest occurrences of cancer, particularly amongst men of the black population. So the recommendation is prostatic cancer may be asymptomatic, meaning that a man may experience no symptoms at all, and he may actually have prostatic cancer. Or some people may experience difficulty urinating, or when they pass urine, they feel like their bladder is not completely emptied, or they are unable to urinate properly or have a urine stream that is as usual. Please get that checked out with your GP. I think we're going to have the PSA done here, the PSA test. Are we doing that here today? Yeah. So it's what I'm getting that checked with your GP. The recommendation is if you are above 50 or sometimes 45, particularly if you're a black man, or if you are a man who has a family history of prostatic cancer, or maybe a mom or grandma or whatever that has had breast cancer, please discuss with your GP. Get the PSA test done. The PSA test is just the first step, and sometimes after that test, they may then ask for the man to do further tests just to rule out prostatic cancer, because as I said, unfortunately, it may be asymptomatic. I know I've said a lot of things and I've had to rush through my slides, but I hope that we've been able to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 things that would help us manage our health better. Okay, the steps to a healthier life starts with the baby steps we take every day. What we eat, what we consume, how well we sleep, how well we rest our minds, relax our minds. Those things are very important. Thank you very much.
Please put those hands together again for Olumide Adeyileka. That was concise. You know, what a way to tell us about our health from head to toe. And I picked up something that he said we should make our health our priority. Very brief and comprehensive. But I'm still working on getting 7 to 9 hours sleep. That's going to be difficult. All right. We'll quickly move on to our second speaker. And she's talking about my health, your health, our health. Please put your hands together. No, before we do that, we're going to have a media introduction, actually. She's an education and community researcher and a senior lecturer and practitioner from King's College London. Media, are we ready for our next guest?
Rosalind Elsie Agyekom is a trained renal nurse who previously worked as a dialysis manager in Ghana prior to migrating to the United Kingdom, where she worked at Barts Health. She presently works for King's Kidney Care as a community nurse researcher. She's also a lead nurse for clinical practice and education and a senior lecturer practitioner. Her clinical focus has been on continuous workforce education, improving vascular access longevity, and recently promoting culturally tailored kidney health literacy and awareness among people of African Caribbean heritage. She's also part of a Share the Pressure steering committee members who focus on the timely identification and collaborative management of high blood pressure. She is a mother of 2 adorable boys, a friend, destiny helper, and a career coach. Please put your hands together for Rosalind Elsie Agyekom as she takes the microphone.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rosalind, and the one thing I'm passionate about is talking about kidneys. And the reason I'm passionate about that is because about 9 family members of mine have kidney disease. Out of these 9, only 1 is alive. And that is why I make it my priority to talk about kidney health. Now, when Nancy asked me to do the talk, she said, Rosalind, what is going to be your title? And I said, Nancy, I'm praying about it. So a few weeks again, she asked me, Rosalind, what is your title? And I said, I'm still praying about it. But last week, she called me and she said, Sister Rosalind, now this is serious. What is your title? And I said, Nancy, it is my mindset, my health. My mindset, my health. Next slide, please. Why do I say that? Our mind is a powerhouse. Our mind determines what we do, our behavior. A friend once told me, how I think and feel affects how I behave. And my repeated behavior becomes my pattern, and that is what I live out to be. But we are not alone in this. And I like scriptures. Yeah. As a man thinks in his heart, me, Rosalind, as I think in my heart, so will I be. So, thank you, Olumide. If I say that my health is important and that is what is in my mind, that's what I'm going to focus on. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. My mindset, my health. Next slide, please. What do I want us to talk about today is to look at the kidneys. Why should I actually think about? Why should I even worry about my kidneys? What is that so much fast? However, focus on there is an increasing problem amongst us with poor kidney health. And majority of us do not know. So what I want us to focus on is how can I actually improve my kidney health? There is a link between my heart and my kidneys. And the first speaker talked about cardiovascular health, cardiovascular heart. There is a strong link between my heart and my kidneys. These 2 organs, they have an everlasting romance. When one is unwell, it's only a matter of time, the other one too will become unwell. Okay. And the importance of knowing my own kidney health. I need to know it for myself. Are my kidneys healthy? Are my kidneys healthy? Because if I know, then I would prepare my mind to actually help me take steps to keep maintaining my kidney health. And then when we want to talk about kidney health, what do we actually do to check kidney health? But the most important thing is, how can this mind of mine, how can I transform this mind to actually maintain my health? Next slide, please. So we all have 2 kidneys. God gave all of us 2 kidneys, but one is not for us. Now, anytime I say that, people say, hang on, Rosny, where are you going? One is what I call a gift of life. We cannot live with one. I'm being controversial here. We cannot live with one. And when we transplant patients with kidneys, we don't give them 2, we give them 1. So I need to look after the one that I have and also look after the second one, which is a gift of life for another person. Okay. Now, these 2 kidneys work both at the same time. Sometimes people ask, does that mean that one works and when that one gets tired, then the other one starts working? No, both of them work at the same time. And they do amazing work. As I move on the stage, if not that my kidneys are helping my body to absorb calcium, my bones will not be able to carry me. If not that my kidneys are working for my muscles to even take in calcium, I cannot walk. I cannot talk. So this morning I've had coffee. If not that my kidneys are working, everything else I've taken it today will be staying inside my body because I've already been to the toilet. And it shows that my kidneys are working. So our kidneys do amazing work. Whatever goes inside, the first speaker said garbage in, garbage out. Whatever goes inside my body, whatever I take, all I'm asking my kidney to do is to check which one my body needs and get rid of the rest that my body doesn't need. Now here is the catch. If I continue taking in more than the body needs, all I am saying to the kidney is that you need to work harder. And if I am telling my kidneys to work harder, it means I am also telling my heart to work harder. Because my heart needs to pump this whole blood around for my kidneys to receive some and then remove all the waste from it. So whatever goes in, my heart and my kidneys are busy working to keep me healthy. Next slide, please. Inside the kidneys, this is what is most important. If we are going to forget anything today, this is one thing I want us to remember. Inside the kidney, there are filters. Now, these are very tiny blood vessels, very, very tiny. So the easiest way to remember how tiny these blood vessels are is to look at one strand of a Caucasian hair. Not the Afro-Kinky hair. Afro-Kinky hair is thick. One strand of a Caucasian hair. So imagine this very tiny blood cell, very tiny blood vessel. What it means is that if my blood pressure is high, I am actually damaging these very tiny blood vessels. If I am eating a lot of fatty foods and making my blood vessels small, I am putting a lot of pressure on these tiny blood vessels. Next slide, please. Now, what I find even more interesting, God is a wonderful God. Now, these kidneys, they are not really big. Because sometimes when we talk about the kidneys, people think that they are very huge organ. This is just the size of the kidney. A size of my fist. But if you look at it, just look at it, how many mils enter the kidney? 1,200 mils. Now, this is not just 1,200 mils in a day. No. In a day, 1,700 liters. Those of us who drive, we know how much petrol that is. 1,700 liters. 45 gallons. That is how much this small organ processes in a day. Isn't that amazing? That this 45 gallons, only 0.5% comes out as urine. The body keeps everything. Because without water, we cannot do anything. Majority of my body is made up of water. So this kidney is busy processing all of this, but it is actually keeping 99% of it. Only 1% is coming out as urine. So we need to salute and show our kidneys some love. They deserve that. Next slide, please. So I've talked about what the kidneys actually do. Blood pressure. But also the kidneys produce this hormone. We call it erythropoietin, a very long word. But all erythropoietin does is that it helps the body, particularly the bone marrow, to make red blood cells. So there are some people who may go to the hospital and the doctor will say they have anemia. Now, their blood is very low. If those individuals do not have kidney disease, that has nothing to do with the kidneys. Because sometimes people ask me, oh, my GP said I have anemia. Does that mean that I have a kidney problem? Not necessarily. Okay. But also, if we look at it, so I have the bin there, or the trash can. That is the job of the kidneys. That is why when the kidneys are not working properly, we have a serious problem. What it means is that all the junk is going to stay inside the body. Okay? And people with that would need the machine to get rid of the junk. Okay? So I've talked about the bone health. I've talked about muscle strength. I've also talked about the heart. And what it also does is that it helps to keep the body in correct balance. Most of the foods we eat have acid in them, although we do not know. And the kidney is responsible for making sure that there is this fine balance, okay, of my blood. Next slide, please. Okay. So, what are the main problems that affect the kidneys? Now, for all the problems that affect the kidneys, this is the most serious one. It is what we call chronic kidney disease, what I would call long, gradual process of losing those fine filters in the kidney. It takes years. This is what is serious about this. And also has no warning sign. It doesn't tell you that something is happening. No warning sign at all. It would show no sign until we have lost about 70% of those filters. That is when it starts showing, and that is serious. That is serious. But what are some of the main risk factors how somebody may be at risk of having poor kidney health? Diabetes. Okay. Now, diabetes also runs in families. So we would know that for majority of us, African Afro-Caribbeans, we have increased risk of developing diabetes. But what are some of the trigger factors for diabetes? Being overweight. Okay. Also, sometimes when we are pregnant, we may have pre-diabetes or gestational diabetes. Now, all of that increases our risk of actually developing diabetes in the long term. Okay. If a parent, a brother, a sister, or any other sibling has diabetes, it also increases our own risk of developing diabetes. And the first speaker talked about exercise, being physically inactive. Those of us who were born in Africa, anytime I say that, people start laughing. I still remember where I used to live, and my school was about 5 kilometers away. And in the morning, I would have to walk 10 kilometers to go and fetch water. I'm doing this trip twice before I go to school. So 10 kilometers times 2, this is in the morning, plus 5 kilometers to go to school, 5 kilometers back from school, another 10 kilometers to go and fetch water before you cook and you eat. By the time you finish, even if I ate banku, amala, cocoa, before I go to bed, there is nothing in my stomach, it's all gone. Also, I don't know about, but majority of us were brought up together as a family. So we ate together. I come back to my mindset. What my mind saw on the plate in Ghana, if I do not now change it, that I am alone eating, I still have the same bowl size. And when I finish, now I am here in England, I'm not going to work. When I finish, I'm going to watch the TV. So this then increases my risk. If we look at that together with the risk of hypertension, it is roughly about the same. Being overweight, high salt diet, and I like the fact that the nutritionists are here. High salt diet, diabetes. So see, if I have diabetes, it increases my risk of hypertension. Hypertension, okay? And then race, just being black, okay? And then for some people, it is hereditary, runs in families. Next slide, please. Remember this romance between the kidneys and the heart. And the main thing is those blood vessels in there. If we were to spread those tiny blood vessels in the kidneys, it's about 10 kilometers. Isn't God wonderful? Now, whilst it is 10 kilometers and it is wonderful, that is also the reason why early kidney problem is silent. Okay? That is why early kidney problem is silent. Next slide, please. This is what breaks my heart. This is what breaks our heart. Okay? Although we are at increased risk of poor kidney health, majority of us also do not know that we have poor kidney health. And if you come to King's College where I work, if you go to any of our dialysis units, you would think you are actually in some part of Africa. Because all the people we are going to see, I used to think, I said, what happened? I had to ask my manager at first. I said, my kind, what did we do? She said, what do you mean? I said, you need to tell me what crime has my kind committed, that it is us having this problem. But it is because majority of us do not know. We don't know our risk and we do not know. And by the time we come to the hospital, it is too late. And we have to start kidney replacement therapy. Okay. We also develop end stage, the last end of kidney disease, 10 years younger than our one. What crime did we do? Okay. We need mindset again. We need to change our mindset. When it even comes to transplantation, we are also the least. To one, donate, and two, receive. Somebody told me, Rosden, are you serious? When I go to God, what am I going to say? He gave me 2 kidneys. Now you're saying I should give 1. So when I go to God and he says, of the organs I gave you, why are you coming with 1? I said, God is not going to ask you that. Or, no, it is a crime to receive somebody else's body into my body. Next slide, please. I remember somebody saying, I need to find out whose kidneys I am receiving so that I don't become the person. Let's remember what I said. Whilst it is wonderful to have 10 kilometers of blood vessels in there, the biggest challenge we have is that poor kidney health shows no symptoms until 70% of those blood vessels are damaged. Now, there are a lot of things that sometimes when we think about them in terms of health, we don't understand. So these are tiny blood vessels. We have the same tiny blood vessels in our head, in our brains. When there is a lot of pressure on the blood vessels in our brains, they rupture, they burst, and people will get stroke. In the kidneys, they don't rupture, they die. In the kidneys, those beautiful blood vessels will just die. And somebody said, okay, so Rose, then when they die, can we do anything about them? And I said, I'm sorry. There is no resurrection for the kidneys when they die over a gradual period. So we need to find them early. We need to find them early. You would see here it shrivels and shrivels and shrivels, and we need to find them early. For us, that is what we are passionate about, finding it early. Next slide, please. This is the emergency. When we look at current statistics, there is a gradual increase in the number of people with poor kidney health. There are 2 main reasons for that. First of all, the GPs are gradually getting good at testing people. So that is partly the reason. But also now there is a lot of community engagement raising awareness. Previously, even GPs were not recording that people have poor kidney health. You would go to your GP, they would test your blood. They still know you have poor kidney health, but it wasn't on your record. And if it is not on your record, there is no way we would know, and no way that the GP is even going to work to actually promote the little function that you left it. So that is why we can see that it is now going up. And there is a projection. If we don't do anything, it's going to keep going up and up and up. We see this as a tsunami going to hit us, and we are passionate to work with charity organizations and everybody to protect, first of all, myself, because I come from a family where everybody has high blood pressure and diabetes, to protect my community, and then to protect our friends as well. Okay, next slide, please. So we can see here, this is inside the kidneys. If my kidneys are healthy, this big protein called albumin stays in my blood. But if my kidneys are damaged, when we pass urine, we are going to see this big protein in the urine. And that is what we use in checking whether a person has good kidney health or their kidney health is struggling. Next slide, please. So what can I do? What can I actually do? Water. First of all, am I drinking enough water? And our kidney says it all, our urine says it all. So the next time you go and have a wee, have a look at it. Do you have a smiley face or... Okay? Because our urine says it all. If I am not drinking enough water, my pee will say it. Okay? Next slide, please. I like the fact that the nutritionists are there. But here is a question I always ask. What are we eating for? Especially, majority of us do long shift. We close and we get home very late. And because we've gotten home late, we are saying that I am so tired and I'm hungry and I need to eat. But the question to ask before you even eat, what am I eating for? Am I eating for energy at 9 o'clock? Which energy do I need? Okay, so that will determine what I'm going to put on my plate. Okay, and it is important. That will determine what I'm going to put on my plate. Next slide, please. After I've determined what I'm going to put on my plate, now the next thing is, what portion? And I always ask people to use the same fist. The same size of my kidney is the same amount of carbohydrate I need. And anytime I say that, I get the same response. Roslyn, my tummy will be growling. The key thing is to fill the rest with vegetables. And I like this. If you find honey, eat just enough. Too much might make you puke. Okay. Next slide, please. Hey, the salt. I always ask this question. Is salt our tasty friend or a hidden enemy? And let me tell you, it is a hidden enemy. Salt is not our friend. We like tasty food, but salt is our number one killer for high blood pressure. So please, let's cut the salt, okay? And our mothers, our grandfather, they never use all this Maggi cube or pepper seasoning, ajikama, ajinomoto. They didn't use them. And we still enjoyed their food. We still love them. I like that. But now we add all these things to... For some of us, some of my patients will say, Rosna, I will struggle. I said, these are the low sodium stock one. Please use them. But ideally, every food we eat already has salt in them. The less salt, the better for the heart. I always like trading with my patient. If you cut down the salt, I will take 1 tablet away. Okay. Next slide, please. There is no point taking a lot of salt and then ending up with so many tablets. I wouldn't even want to talk more about exercise, but let's keep moving. Let's keep these muscles and these bones moving. It keeps the body working very well. It keeps my heart healthy. It keeps my kidneys working very well. And even if I have diabetes, exercise makes the diabetes medication work better. Next slide, please. Okay. Blood pressure, please, let's keep the numbers down. A lot of us worry about blood pressure, and I like my sister talking about stress. A lot of us worry about blood pressure. The secret is that if we do not rest enough, all the doctor is going to do is to add more tablet, and the more tablet you have, the more stress you become, the higher the blood pressure goes. Okay, all of these blood pressure tablets, although they work, they all have side effects. And let me say that for majority of our men who are on taking blood pressure medications, the one common side effect is low blood to the penis. Okay, so it will come across as if the man has erectile dysfunction or cannot perform, My dear sisters, in fact, when you start putting pressure on that man, the little that he has will also go off. Please, no stress. Rather, let's encourage our men, okay? And find other ways, but no stress, I beg of us. Because that is not the only thing. Intimacy, please. No stress. That is not the only thing. And please, for our men, don't also think that if you cannot do that, it means you have failed as a man. You are the father of the home, and we love you regardless. Please. Okay. Next slide, please. And if we have diabetes, let's keep the numbers down as well. For every diabetes medication they give us, it all works differently. You can see that some of them move the glucose, some of them makes our insulin work better. But listen, it all has to do with the choices that I make in terms of what am I eating, what is on my plate, my mindset, my health. Next slide, please. So, the key thing is, we are here. Take opportunity. Come and know your own kidney health, and we will work with you for you to maintain the kidney health that you have. Okay. Final slide. What can I do? God has not left me alone. His Spirit lives inside me. He has not given me a spirit of fear. Yeah? He's given me a spirit of power. I need to exercise that power, activate that power, and take control of my health. I cannot do this all by myself. I would need buddies. If we're even talking about reducing salt, one person in the household cannot do it. It takes the whole house to actually do it. If I want to exercise, one person cannot do it because you always need a buddy. You always need a cheerleader. So let's work together. Find people who can hold us accountable, okay, for what we are doing. How many steps have you taken today? It is about holding each other accountable, finding buddies so that together, we can promote the kidney health of ourselves, our friends and family, and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Do you know my take home from this session? It says we should have a change of mindset. So what is your mindset? What is your mind saying? What is your mind telling you? You know, I tried to invite someone today, and she was like, I beg my sister, what I don't know will not kill me. So when I was just talking to Pastor, and Pastor was like, what she does not know can actually kill her. So that brings me back to how you started. Change of mindset. Please, brothers and sisters, let us have a change of mindset. And all of the things she has said, we'll try and inculcate it. No salt. No Maggi. We will try. And have accountability partners in the household. You know, my son, last year, he was here when you had that session with us, and he was like, anytime I go near salt, he would remind me, Mommy, no salt, low salt. But when he goes to McDonald's, as salty as McDonald's fries can be, he will still ask for salt. Me too, I will now remind him, no salt. So we are both holding each other accountable. Thank you. Please put your hands together again for Rosalind Ageko. All right, before we move on to the third session, I'd just like to inform you that after this third session, we're going to have questions and answers. So whatever questions you have, please just keep writing them down now. From the first session to the second, then to the third. And for those of you watching from YouTube and Facebook, please drop your comments, drop your questions, and we'll definitely answer it to the best of our knowledge with the speakers here. And also a bit of housekeeping. In case you need, I know most of us are first timers here, so in case you need to use the toilet, please just on my right hand side here, we have the toilets for the men and for the women. And also, I can't see babies around here, but if you need baby changing room, we have one there as well. And also, if you need water, please just ask anyone that would definitely get you water. All right, so I love this next session, and it's just talking about well women, well man. Let's talk about menopause and andropause. I've never heard about that before, so I'm in for a very good time this session. Media, are we ready for our next speaker? Media intro, please.
Yinka Omishore, the forward-thinking founder and principal coach of HGCC Fit, brings extensive expertise in fitness, nutrition, menopause coaching, and juicing therapy. With over 2 decades of experience as a wellness educator, she possesses a profound understanding of the challenges encountered during midlife. Yinka is the mastermind behind the Who Stole My Body Menopause Masterclass and has empowered individuals nationwide to achieve their wellness aspirations through HGCC Fit lifestyle. She conducts lively online fitness sessions in the early morning hours to support her clients. Additionally, Yinka has contributed as a health columnist for a London church magazine and has been recognized as a healthy lifestyle specialist. She holds qualifications as a trained clinical nutritionist, juicing therapist, and menopause and fitness coach. Outside of all her professional endeavors, she is a devoted mother and an enthusiastic reader in her leisure time. With a standing ovation, please welcome on stage our juicing therapist, Yinka Omishore.
Wow. Good. Oh yeah, we have to know now. Oh yes. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually shocked at many of the clips I've shown of me. I'm like, where did they get that? Where did they get that one? All right. As I like to do, because we've been sitting for a while, and you saw me showing some exercise with this. If you please indulge me, you can stand up. I'm gonna move these muscles. We've been told to get our kidneys to work. We also need to exercise. So we're just gonna do some movement. But first and foremost, I want you to put your hands just above your stomach. We're gonna take some deep breaths in. So when you breathe in, make sure you're pushing that head into that diaphragmatic area. That's in your stomach. It should be like a balloon, really. And when you breathe out, relax it back. All right? This is the only time you're allowed to have a warm pack. All right. So let's do it together. Let's take a deep breath in. Hold it. And out. Deep breath in. As the shoulders come. Let's bring the shoulders down. Let's really push it in. Okay, let's do it one more time. Deep breath in. And out. All right, let's shrug the shoulders. Yes, get these muscles moving. Let's do it in the opposite direction. I bet you were not thinking you were going to come and exercise like this, right? We're only just going to do a little. Right. Okay, I know we haven't got that much room, so wherever you are, just go on the tippy toe. And for those watching online as well, you can join us. Excellent. Right, you can stop now and just go side to side. Oh, thank you. A few more. 3, 2, 1. Give yourself a hand. Sit down. Okay. So we're going to talk about menopause and andropause. Some people are like, what's andropause? It's just the male version of the menopause. So I in my research and, yes, one of the things I train to do is as a menopause practitioner, but I have not really come to the conclusion, but I think some of the times when we say a man is going through a midlife crisis, perhaps it's the hormonal changes they're going through. Okay, because when I start to compare the two, can I have my slides, please? You will see some similarities between the women and the men's midlife crisis. So let's talk about menopause and andropause. Okay. Right, this looks like a mayhem, right? There's so many bridges and things there. It's just going to show, I use this picture to depict what women or even men are going through when we come to this stage of life and I name my masterclass as Who Stole My Body? Because you get to a point, you're like, you don't know, you don't even feel like yourself anymore. So let's dive into that and get some understanding about this stage of life. Next slide, please. So just a little disclaimer, you can take that off. I am not medically trained. I'm a nutritionist with interest in menopause, juicing, and fitness. So whatever I share today is for information purposes only, but please, if you're planning on making any changes to your lifestyle, consult with your doctor first and foremost, all right? Okay, we got that out of the way. Next slide. So, we're going to look at what hormones are, what andropause and menopause is defined as, look at some signs and symptoms of them, and of course, we talk about some lifestyle strategies, which the first two speakers, by the way, thank you very much for those sessions, have, touched on as well. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. All right, while we're waiting for that, my question is, when you hear the word menopause and andropause, what comes to mind? I like to make my sessions a little bit interactive, right? So, anybody want to shout out to me what they understand by menopause and andropause? Don't be shy now, please. Stop of menstruation, yes? Thank you. Any more? Come on, ladies. We know what we go through when we come to this stage of life. Hot flushes, yes, the infamous hot flushes. Thank you. Oh, thank you. That was the next slide. Right. And of course, let's not forget the fact that they redistribute to those areas we don't want, i.e., our stomach area and all that. Okay. So, did you know that by the year 2025, it's estimated that about 1 billion women will go into the menopause? So, we're talking about 12% of the world population. That's a lot of women. And in our workplaces, we have 8 out of 10 women in the United Kingdom at this stage of life. Okay, that's a huge, huge number. So menopause and andropause affect us not just physically, but also mentally. That means they also affect the quality of our relationship. Okay? I remember a few years ago, I was snappy, wasn't the best person to be around. Anyway, it took a friend of mine suggesting to me, have you considered maybe you might be going through the perimenopause? I'm like, no. But I delved into it. I know I look a lot younger than the birth certificate says, but I know one or two things about the menopause. All right? So the former speaker talked about the cardiovascular disease, which occurs more in postmenopausal women than in men of similar age. So as women are getting older, our risk of having cardiovascular disease tends to increase as well. Next slide, please. Right, this is specifically for menopause, looking at the fact that 1 in 4 women will have very few symptoms. 1 in 4 women will have debilitating symptoms. That means it affects the quality of life. All right, there was a study done about 2 years now. They found that almost 1 million women in the United Kingdom quit their job as a result of menopausal symptoms. So we've lost those. We've lost those experience from the workplaces, all right? Which is why there's more, I always say there's more noise being made about the menopause now, rightly so too, okay? Right, 1 in 100 women will experience menopause under the age of 40, so it's not, I'm not old. It can happen for various reasons, yeah? Thank you. Next slide, please. So what are hormones? I always say we are hormonal beings. They are simply chemical messengers. They run the show in our body. From our sleep to our waking up to, a young girl having a first period, to us being pregnant as women, to a young boy becoming a man. The hormones run the show. So we need to understand about the hormones. We need to understand what affects the hormones so that we can be as healthy as possible. Next slide, please. So I already mentioned that. Can we go to the next one? Thank you. Right, when it comes to the man as well, it defines men's, men have more muscles than women. Of course, when it also comes to men, we have more, maybe not hair there, but more hair on the body, as well as a changing in the voice, from that young boy with a sweet voice having a man's voice. So the hormones determines all of this as well. Next slide, please. Right, 2018 in the United Kingdom, it reported that the average age for men to divorce is 46.9 years, and for women, it is 44.5 years. Now, is that a coincidence? I don't know. Exactly, so it's a midlife crisis. Okay, so when we think about how the rate of divorce tends to be higher at this age, perhaps we also need to be looking at what the hormones is doing. Next slide, please. I think you got it. I don't need to say much about that. Okay? So we have, midlife crisis. The man goes, let's pretend this is Bob. Bob is bored. Bob is divorced. Bob has pot belly. And the next thing he goes and gets himself a motorbike because, he's going through what we call the midlife crisis. And when it comes to us women, we go for the tank. You're ready to kill any and everybody that messes with you on maybe a particular day of the month. But it's just, I thought I had a bit of humor there so we can see how we differ, at this midlife stage. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk serious now. I always like putting this definition for the menopause there by this author. It says menopause is a pause while you reconsider men. I know, as funny as that may sound, it's serious, okay? So the menopause is defined, like somebody said, you no longer have your period, ovulation comes to an end, so that means the chances of getting pregnant is pretty much nil, all right? Next slide, please. And for the men, the andropause is as men, the testosterone levels also start to decrease in mid-age. This has become, that's what we know as the andropause. And as men from the age of 30, there's a gradual decrease in that testosterone hormone, about 1% a year. Which is why when a man is going through midlife, or from 30 and up, I said 30, well, maybe not necessarily 30 is midlife, but I suppose still young. Anyway, from 40. But they found out from 30, the testosterone starts to decrease by 1%. So it's gradual. When you compare it to the woman, we get to that age of 45 or 46, it's like the man's one is riding a bicycle. So it's gliding down slowly down the hill. Whereas the woman is like going on that bungee jump. It's like, whoo! Hence, all those symptoms come hitting at us like that. Yeah? So that's one difference between the man and the woman. Next slide, please. So, some questions for you to ponder upon. What is currently your lifestyle? What's your lifestyle like currently? One of the speakers talked about stress. What's your lifestyle like? And what was your lifestyle like before? And the reason I ask is because lifestyle has an impact on how we present through menopause and andropause. Huge impact. All right? So let's have a think about that. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is just a picture of how the hormones are produced in the body. Now, cholesterol, we need cholesterol because cholesterol helps the body to produce hormones. Like I said, we're hormonal beings, so we do need those hormones. So if you look right about here, you see how the testosterone for men is produced. Also, it's interesting that testosterone also helps in the production of estrogen. Now, before I go on to that, let me just say this. Man and woman, right? So man has more testosterone and woman has more estrogen. So the T is for the man, the E is for the woman, right? Men also have estrogen, a little estrogen, just as well as women have a little bit of testosterone because we need it for libido, right? Okay? So that's the difference between men and women when we're talking about the andropause and the menopause. So therefore, next slide, please. Our hormones they work on what is known as a negative feedback mechanism. Now, the body is being designed so beautifully well, right? When there's this imbalance in one part of the body, the rest of the body tries to bring a balance to it. So imagine your brain is where is a control center, the headquarters. When the ovaries are not producing, as in the case of the woman, when the ovary is not producing the estrogen as much as or the body is used to producing, the brain is knocking on the door of the other part of the brain and saying, can you tell the ovaries to please produce more estrogen? Because there's an imbalance here. Similarly, with the men's one as well, the body is sensing, oh, we're getting low on testosterone. Can you tell the testes to continue to please kick up the production of the testosterone? And because of this imbalance and because of the body trying to balance the hormones, we have all these symptoms come into play. Yeah? So it's a very delicate balance in the hormones. There was something about hormone dancing. So if you have one is high, one is low, you always have to have it in balance. Yeah? Am I making sense so far? Yeah? Good. All right, next slide, please. Right, so it sounds like I'm a bit partial to the women because I've got more slides on menopause and the testosterone, so please forgive me, men, but, I think there's more women here than men. Okay, right, so on the menopause side, this stages 1 to 4. We're going to ignore stage 1 because that's, the girl's first menstrual cycle and on it goes. We're looking at the perimenopause, the menopause, and the postmenopause. Now, the menopause itself is not a phase. It's just, I would say, it's like you've gone 12 months without a period. On the first day of the 13th month, that's the menopause. So happy menopause birthday, right? And after that, you're in postmenopause, right? So all the time we're having those symptoms. You're like, oh, I'm going through the menopause. You're actually a perimenopause, which is this stage here. And normal age for that is between 35 and 45. Globally, most women, by the time you're 51, you're in postmenopause. So no more periods, you're done. Shops close, all right? And that's it. Yeah? So who can say 3 stages? You say what? Voila. Well, we're done. Everything that has a beginning has an end, okay? But one of the reason I'm here today is to help us to understand how, if we're already going through that stage, or even if we've come to postmenopause, is how to continue to be healthy through it. Because menopause is our gateway to aging, just as andropause is a gateway to aging for men. So how we present, how or what we do at this stage of life impacts on the rest of our lives. All right? Okay. Thank you. Next slide, please. Right, so all of these symptoms that we have, with the fats going around here, with the moodiness, with the hot flushes and everything is, okay, why? Yes, we know the hormones are decreasing, but because in our bodies, again, intelligently designed by God, we have what we call receptors at different parts of our bodies. I always like to use the analogy of, can we go to the next slide for me, please? The analogy of, this is specifically about the estrogen receptors of a lock and a key, all right? Imagine I've been shopping, I've got so much bags, I'm coming home, and I get to my front door, I can't find my key. Now, question, can I get inside my house? Exactly. Even if I can somehow manage to, I don't know, whatever I manage to do, if I can get into one part of the house, I can get into the other part of the house, especially if I have keys to all those different, doors in the house. So imagine your hormone, like the testosterone and estrogen, is the key. And the lock is what we call the receptors. So if we're at this stage of life, you find that the hormones are declining, therefore, you can't get into the rest of the house. Hence why we have all those symptoms with the brain fog, because we have the receptors on the brain, have it on the breast, the uterus, the bone, the skin, the liver, and the previous slides, even in our guts, we have all of these receptors there because they are all playing a part in us being alive, really. So what do? Now we know naturally menopause is a natural stage of life. Andropause is a natural stage of life, whether we like it or not. So it's how to manage those symptoms so we can stay healthy. Next slide, please. Right, so I mentioned this already about comparing the men and the women, but this looks at some of the symptoms that are common to men, common to men and also common to women, and what they share in common. Mood swing, right? Depression, headaches, night sweats, trouble sleeping, weight gain, reduced sex drive, all right? And some of these symptoms are related to stress. We've talked about stress. And because we're midlifers, right, we tend to be sandwiched between two generations. Some of us, we still have children that are home. Even if our children have gone to uni, once you're a parent, you're always a parent. And then you have aged parents. I have a mother who's 87, she's a child again. So I'm sandwiched between two generations. So even that alone is stress, yeah? We need we need stress to help us to do things, but too much of stress, and because of the lifestyle that we live, where we find ourselves, there's so much stress, and that impacts on the symptoms that we get. When a man gets up and he feels like he has no focus, there's no motivation, the last speaker mentioned erectile dysfunction. It's one of the things that happen to men in midlife. It's also related to stress, also related to the hormones which we're talking about. Women also, we have issues with low libido. We have aches and pains that you can't explain. It could be the menopause. Next slide, please. Right. Can we take it to the next one? I've talked about that one. Right. So talking about menopause itself, the different ways you can get into the menopause. So we have the natural way of getting to the menopause. We have, if you've had hysterectomy, so menopause comes on a little bit earlier than naturally would have done. Some are induced because of a reason of maybe medication or medical treatment such as radiation. And also it can happen in women going into the menopause before 45, which we have early menopause, and we have premature menopause for women that go into menopause under the age of 40, okay? But regardless of whichever way you go into the menopause, we'll still have the symptoms of the menopause. It's how we manage those symptoms. Next slide, please. Next slide, thank you. Right. Well, as I asked a question here, so who is responsible, or what is responsible? So we have the hormones, and I've mentioned a bit about the lifestyle, which I asked you to ponder on those two questions about what your lifestyle is about. What's your lifestyle look like now, and what it was before? I'll tell a little bit about myself, because like I said, when I was, I'm still perimenopausal, I was shocked at the hot flush I was getting. And I thought, hang on, I eat well, I exercise, I teach these classes. Why am I getting that? So that took me down the route of, studying again and certifying and whatever. And I found that there's a lot more to the menopause than, they say menopause is more than hot flushes, but there's a lot to it. And even the andropause, when we talk about the stress, because I was going through a lot of stress, I did not attribute it to why I was getting those hot flushes, okay? What we eat, if we're low in iron, if we're low in vitamin D, all of this impact on the symptoms that we get when we come to this stage of life. So it's you have to have a bird's eye view when we're talking about midlife, andropause, and menopause as well. Next slide, please. So I'm going to touch on about 3 or 4 symptoms of the menopause. I've got a few more minutes, that's great. And I chose hot flush because a brother of mine was sitting and he was eating. Twice I've noticed it, and he was breaking out in sweat. The food was hot, yes. Was it peppery? Maybe. But the type of sweat, he was like, that's a lot of sweat. I let it slide the first and second time. I said, you know what? I think you got hot flushes. I'm like, really? No, I can't. I'm a man. But he was having hot flushes, similarly to, a woman having a hot flush. So what is a hot flush? It's that intense warmth or heat that you get usually around, the torso, the chest. Sometimes it can go from your head all the way to your toes. And you can break in sweat as well. So the question you want to ask is, so why am I hot? Why? You know, I always say we always need to have that detective hat on when you're asking the question, like those 2-year-olds, why? Why? If you have a headache, ask yourself, why? Because in the asking of the question, you find a solution. Yeah? So let's, if you don't take anything away from the rambling about menopause and andropause, take away that. Always ask that question, why? Yeah? So, what are the reasons? Can we go back to that, please? So, of course, the hormones are declining. Last speaker talked about the blood vessels in the kidney. Similarly, when we're aging, when we're getting older, as much as we can make ourselves look shiny or with a cake and Mary Kay or whatever, inside we are aging, all right? So those vessels are getting older, they're getting thick, they're becoming more stiff. So therefore, the heart is having to do a lot of more pounding, more work to do, which is why our lifestyle is very, very important, because then we can help the body to do what it should do, right? And then when we're not sleeping well, that also has been mentioned about sleep, the importance of sleep. Our gut health plays a big role. The first speaker mentioned about the gut health. Plays a big role in our symptoms. It plays a big role when it comes to hot flushes as well. Mineral deficiency, I already mentioned about the low iron or even the low B vitamin and vitamin D, all impact on those symptoms, okay? So, but before you rush out and get, supplements, it's always a good idea to have a blood test done so you know where you are. Yeah? Thank you. Next slide, please. Right, so the next one is about the low libido, which we tend to shy away from talking about this, but I will talk about it today, as well as vagina dryness when it comes to women. Yeah, go for it. Good, thank you. So the changes in the hormones affect us, like I mentioned before, both physically and mentally. And this feeling can leave us, okay, even let's go to the woman. Let's talk about the vagina dryness, for example. I know there are little children here, so I'm going to be careful how I word this. So, but, Cody, a little bit. You know that time when the priest of the house wants to perform a sacrifice with the priestess of the house, yeah? Okay, so before, yeah, you understand us, I'm quoting it, excellent. So before, we can perform this sacrifice anywhere in the house, we're fine, it was always on tap. But then you get to midlife, priest wants to perform that sacrifice, the priestess is saying, boy, I got a headache, or I'm tired, it's like, again, but is it food? Is it food? We don't want to go there. And then the man is frustrated as in, why is this priestess not cooperating? Let's perform this sacrifice. But the woman herself don't know what she's going through. Down there is dry. What used to be pleasurable is now painful. And if it's painful, you don't want to do it. So this is where communication comes in. This is where, let's not shy away from talking about this. And let's work together. The last speaker talked about doing exercise together. Even as partners, let's talk together. Let's talk about this, because if one person is not feeling fine to perform a sacrifice as you want to, then no sacrifice is being born that night, is there? So, can I have the next slide, please? Oh, next one. Oh, okay, don't worry about it. I just talk about, So there are things we can do when it comes to, helping down there to stay moist so that we can continue to perform the sacrifice, because we need to, right? So go back to the former slide for me, please. And, there we are. Okay, so it says about 45% of women post-menopausal, and we're talking women from 50 and up, right? Normal age of menopause, which is the time where you should be free to enjoy performing sacrifice. And then if you're dry, you don't want to go there. Okay, 45%. That's a lot, isn't it? It's huge. And we know the low estrogen comes into play when it's dry, when, the temple doesn't have enough oil on there. Sacrifice is not happening. So we need to make sure we're able to lubricate and pave way for the sacrifice to be burnt, all right? So I'll talk a little bit about some solutions in a little while. I've just looked at my time. On to the next slide, please. Right, so I'm just going to say, I'm trying not to read the whole thing, that midlife provides us a good opportunity, if we're not already living a healthy lifestyle, to start living a healthy lifestyle, right? We have joints, bones, and muscles for a reason. This is our responsibility. We need to look after it. The first speaker talked about, if we're not well, we cannot perform our purpose, all right? We need to take it seriously. Next slide, please. Right, so we need to make sure you're keeping notes of your symptoms. Have a diary. Build a support. I talked about communicating with your partner, commit to a healthy lifestyle, which I just mentioned. Consider counseling if you need to, please. Let's not shy away from such. Have the first speaker, I think, also talked about having time for yourself. You need self-care. Self-care is not selfish, honestly. And making adjustments regarding intimacy, all right? Intimacy doesn't always equal performing sacrifice, going all the way. There are other things we can do. Right, next slide, please. Can we go to the next one? And of course, if you have to visit the doctor, please, do visit that doctor. Oh, did you want to take a picture of that? Can you go back to that slide, please? I don't think, was it this one? Yeah, okay. Thank you. The next one, please. Right, so some solution which is probably common to all of the symptoms that I've mentioned is making sure we're exercising, we're drinking enough water. When it comes to hot flushes, wearing light clothes or layering up so you have something to take off. And I've seen a few ladies with their hand fans, always, ventilate, have cooling yourself down that way, and reducing your trigger. So if you find that the stress is your trigger, or maybe too much sugar, alcohol, tobacco, all of this impact on our symptoms. So we need to make sure we are eliminating or even reducing them if we can totally eliminate them. Next slide, please. And the next one. Right, just a little bit about the solution for the vaginal dryness. So we looked at moisturizers. So please, first and foremost, do speak to your GP, because there are other things that they can recommend for you to help, grease that altar. Next one, please. Okay, so I have touched on this a little. So this is the acronym I use in coaching women when it comes to solution for menopause. Mindset was the last thing that the focus of the last speaker talked about. The mindset is very, very important. It is a stage of life, menopause, andropause. The question is, how do you handle it? How do we deal with it? It's not the end. It's a new beginning. So make the most of it. Yeah? And next slide, please. That's a little bit about, are you coming back up to talk about nutrition, aren't you? Oh, that's it. Oh, Auntie. So I won't talk about nutrition, so I'll leave it to the next speaker. Next one, please. Next one. Next one. Next one. Okay. Right. This is just something I wanted to share quickly. And is because when we talk about menopause and andropause, our liver has gone through a lot, especially for our generation. One of the things I encourage is to have a liver cleanse, right? Because our liver is vital to how our body eliminates excess estrogen. I know it sounds like we're depleting, we're saying you're declining in the estrogen. We're still telling us that we have so much estrogen. It's the bad ones, yeah, that we get from the environment and wherever. So if we keep our liver in optimal health, it helps us with many of the symptoms. So if you're interested in that, please grab me at the end and we can talk a bit about that, okay? So my time's up, so I'm going to leave it there. Well, thank you very much for listening, and thank you for the invite as well.
Thank you very much. And I picked up so many new things today. Yeah. It was an awesome session. Please put your hands together again for her. At least now I know what andropause means. All right. We're moving on to the question and answer session. And to take us through that, do we have questions? If you have questions, please let me see you wave your hands. On the first session, which talked about our health generally from our head to our toe, and to the second session that talked about my health, our health, the kidney, and to the third session that talked about the men and women's health, talking about menopause and andropause. So I'd like to bring, I'm not taking the question and answer session. Somebody who is in charge, who is knowledgeable, would be handling that. And she's the head of the Elevation, this church, the medical team. She's the head, and she's a renal lead nurse, a senior matron at the NHS, improvement leader, NHS elect professional nurse advocate, and she's licensed. She's got licensed freedom to speak of UK BAME advocate, and she's a clinical trial specialist. Put your hands together as I bring up here Nancy Egboluche for the question and answer segment. Let it go. She put this together. If you don't clap for her, she won't bring you next year.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. Are you all excited to be here this morning? Thank you, everyone. So let's wise up, let's rise up and make those changes. Rosalind talked about our mindset. That is about making the right choice today, taking authority over your health. For that to happen, we have to make those changes today. So I'm going to be taking you through the questions and answer time. So if you've got any question for us, for the speakers, could you please indicate? And yeah. And for those online as well, can someone be online to make sure we don't miss anyone, please? And I just want to say we've got a specialist in the house in regards to fertility, because it's very private and confidential. We've got a private room, and if you would like to talk about anything with regards to fertility, we've got Olamide. She's a nurse practitioner. She's here, and she will be able to support you. Thank you.
My name is Olu. I want to really appreciate the efforts of our speakers. I know what it means to put things like this together for presentation. I want to say thank you very much. We appreciate you so much. We appreciate your effort. We appreciate everything you have put in. However, my first question is a request. This enormous effort you have put in, there's so much, I wouldn't want to use the word too much to take in at a time. Is it possible for us to have all these slides so that at our own convenience we can go through them, digest them, and then work properly on them? That's number one. I don't know if I can continue. I have so much questions I have.
The first, that will be for Rosalind. Go on. She will take that.
The next question goes to the first speaker. I was just thinking aloud. Going home early with good health, or remaining here for a longer time with bad health, which one is better? I said I was just thinking aloud. I don't know if you can address that. I was expecting something about about obese, how to prevent it. That's from the first speaker, because you talk on so many things on how we can manage and maintain our health. But nothing is forthcoming. What can we do to reduce obesity? And if we're already on that threshold, what can we do to reverse it, if possible? Can I still go on
Okay, can we just take the first question? Dr. Roslyn. I need a mic here for Roslyn.
I am of the view that the video can be shared on our local, if we have a WhatsApp group in the church, I assume that the video can be shared so that we can listen to that again and then watch the slides again. However, the PowerPoint are with the media team, so if people feel that they need a PowerPoint to understand that, that is perfectly okay with us. They can have that. Yeah.
Olumide, do you want to take the second one?
Sister Nancy, please. Yeah, okay. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, so anybody that needs it, can always reach there and go watch it anytime. It's there.
Okay.
YouTube, yeah. Just, elevation, the HGCC, the elevation point.
Can we have mic for the speakers, please? Thank you. Olumide.
Thank you for that interesting question. I believe you're referring to dying, I believe, with the question. So you mean by going home? I'm always of the opinion that it doesn't always have to be either or. It doesn't have to be, do I die early when I'm healthy or live longer waiting for health? Not necessarily. I have seen a 92-year-old man speak at a seminar. He stood straight without a walker. So it is very possible to be in good health and still be elderly. Of course, health at that stage, just like as a child, if you're measuring the health level of a child and comparing it to the health level of an adult, the gradient by which you're measuring that might be different. So I think in our minds, we think that someone who is older and, for instance, using a walker necessarily is unhealthy. Not necessarily. Sometimes the older we get, the more aids we need. It doesn't necessarily make us unhealthy. So I personally, to answer your question, I would say it doesn't have to be either or. You don't have to be old and unhealthy or die young and die healthy. You can be old and still healthy. And in response to your second question about obesity, I believe it's going to be discussed in forthcoming sessions about nutrition and obesity. But one thing that is a very easy measure that everyone can use when we go home is called the BMI, the Body Mass Index. All you need to do is search on Google. You will see the NHS calculator for calculating your BMI. You can do it at home. You just need your height. It will just ask you to input your height and your weight. It will calculate it for you and analyze it for you and let you know what category you fall into. So if you're normal, obese, if you're in the obese category, or if you're in the overweight category, and it will list out recommendations for you. They are the usual recommendations we always know. Keep active, keep healthy, eat healthy, which are some of the things I have talked about and other speakers have talked about. So if we're being sincere, everyone knows what it means to be healthy weight-wise. It's just that we don't want to do it. So that's what we're here to do, to remind us of these things. As they say, reinforcement enhances learning. So the more we are reminded, hopefully one day, we would accept and actually take steps to implement these things, all right? Thank you so much.
Please do not leave here today without knowing your body mass index. We've got them in the house. They will be able to do that calculation for you and also advise you on what to do with regards to your food and nutrition. Do not leave here without checking your BMI. That is very important. Take charge.
Thank you. I don't know how much time will be permitted. I have 4 more questions. I want to speak on this seriously. Last year, and thank you, Sister Nancy, for this annual event. Some of us went through the kidney test, and they were given some, I think, website or something like that. After the occasion, I got a feedback that my address is not within the catchment area, so they couldn't do anything. I don't know if there's anything we can do to avoid or to help those of us who are living outside the catchment area. Another question has to do with the GPs still. Some of the GPs are the first point of call when it comes to doing investigation, doing these tests, and the GPs will now refer to whichever hospital or whatever. But some of them are not really effective. Some of them are not working. Some of them, you call them, they give you an appointment of next 2 months. And that alone is discouraging to over half of their clients. I don't know what we can do, because some of them, in the course of maintaining your health, you feel something, you want to see GP, they give you 2 months appointment. Man, I will just forget it. And that is why quite a number of people are probably not following up. I don't know what advice you can give us to circumvent the GPs.
Okay. That is for Rosalind. That is King's College Hospital to make that decision if they can manage other catchment areas.
Another question quickly has to do with the recommendation.
For 1 minute.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that question. So, what we have started, we have noticed that after doing the test and encouraging people to go to their GPs, we have noticed that there is a lot of delays. So what we have started doing on King's is that we are now doing a nurse-led clinic. So I run a nurse-led clinic every Tuesday afternoon, where people who have waited for more than 2 weeks from their GP, if they haven't gotten any appointment, I then bring them in and then start the whole process. Then I then communicate with the GP, send the result back to them, and then ask the GPs to follow that up. Because I am doing that and holding the GPs accountable, the GPs have started working on that. And it was another step we had to add. We're not doing that last year, but we started adding that this year to ensure that people who we test their kidney and find that they have protein, they don't have to wait longer for the GPs. I also take your point that it's taking a longer time for the GPs to give appointment. And I have to acknowledge that the current GP system are feeling overwhelmed by the number of patients who have registered. And also there is that awareness from us that we need to check our health. So we are also now calling the GPs, which previously was not. So it looks as if there is a lot of work for the GPs to do. So please do, like I said, I work for the NHS, but I know this NHS is crumbling. So we know there is a problem in the system and we are gradually working on that. But in terms of the kidney health, there is the nurse-led clinic. So whoever test we do today, if we find protein in the urine, we would book that person into the nurse-led clinic and then work with the GP to ensure that whatever recommendations are done accordingly. Thank you. Okay, so yes, so what, that is not just for the GP around, at the moment, not just GP around London. The whole system is all wired up. So assuming that you are not living in the southeast, where I cannot easily find you, what I would then ask you to do is to give me your NHS number and other details, and then I would register you on King's system and then book you into clinic, and then I work that backwards with your GP. So it doesn't matter whether you live in the southeast or not, we can still book you into clinic.
Thank you very much. Please do not leave here today if you know that you want to know your result, you want to take charge of your health, you want to make that choice today, your mindset again. Please do not leave here without registering your interest with Dr. Rosalind. Thank you. Because of time, we will move swiftly to the next speaker and we'll have another opportunity to take more questions. Thank you.
We still have more question and answer sessions. So please just keep your questions. And when the time comes, the guest speakers will answer your questions. Now we're moving on to fitness. You know, we've talked about so many things. We need to be fit. Fitness, and we're going to talk about exercises. We're talking about nutrition, and we're talking about your health generally, looking after your body, exercising your authority. And to do this is someone who has been practicing for almost 10 years, a physiotherapist. For those of us that will go to the gym, register. I have my gym card here, but I register, go for like maybe a month, and then I just reverse again. So I think it's an opportunity. I'm sure it's going to put us through some practical steps today. Please, media, are we ready for the next speaker?
Anthony Adeyileka has over a decade's experience in the healthcare industry. He started his journey at Middlesex University, where he gained a first-class dissertation for his sports biomedicine degree. He completed his master's in physiotherapy at St. George's University Medical School in London and acquired extensive training within the core fields of physiotherapy. Anthony has worked in some of London's most reputable NHS hospitals. He has also worked within medical teams at professional football clubs and gained a postgraduate qualification in acupuncture for pain management. Anthony has a keen interest in the welfare of people, and he is a fitness enthusiast. He now applies his clinical expertise in the private sector, where he treats a range of musculoskeletal and orthopedic conditions while developing his own health brand independently. With a round of applause, please welcome fitness enthusiast Anthony Adeyileka.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. I say good afternoon. How's everybody doing? We're good? All right. I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here this afternoon. Thank you all for your willingness, your sacrifice, not the kind of sacrifice that our previous speaker talked about, but a different type of sacrifice this afternoon. And I just want to thank everybody here for allowing me to present on fitness, on pelvic health today. I also want to thank the medical team of the Elevation Point. Let's give them a round of applause, please, for them putting together this program this afternoon. And I also want to thank the leadership of this church, Holy Ghost Christian Center, Elevation Point, and all the leadership team, all the pastorate teams as well. Thank you so much for hosting us today. Okay, before something very intimate this afternoon. It's something that I want us to just pay attention to. It's an area that is very much neglected overall. So if you've got questions, as we've said before, just write them down and I'll do my best to answer them afterwards. So today I'll be talking about pelvic health. In particular, I'll be talking about the pelvic floor muscles. Okay, so I'll be talking about pelvic floor muscles. So ask the person beside you, are you pelvic fit? What was their answer? Okay, ask another person, are you pelvic fit? There's no answers, there's just laughter. Okay, so I've got two more other questions. So the first question is, what is fitness? So next slide, please. What is fitness to you? And what is fitness to you, and how do we describe health? So I think there was a good definition of health given earlier as a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being without merely the absence of infirmity, illness, or injury. And also, what is fitness to you is a state of being physically healthy and strong to fulfill a particular purpose or a particular role. Next slide, please. So like I said, I'll be talking about the pelvic health, the pelvic floor muscles. So has everyone heard of pelvic floor muscles before? Yes? Okay, good. So today should be more of a reminder, more of a revision session for everybody then. So the pelvic floor muscles are a very, very key area. The pelvic floor itself is a very key area. And as you can see on the images, that it originates from the pubic bone and all the way underneath the pelvis towards the tailbone, which is what we call the coccyx. If everyone can just put their hands out in front of them. That is the size of your pelvic floor muscles. Roughly, that's the size of your pelvic floor muscles. Now, these muscles are very, very, very important. Okay, they play a key role and function in maintaining our pelvic health. They're located, like I said, right at the bottom of our pelvis, which a pelvis is basically our pelvic area, which is the area in the middle of your body that attaches the torso to the legs. And these muscles in particular help to support key organs. As you can see from the image again, the key organs that it's helping to support, number one, the bladder. Also in the male body, the prostate. For both men and women, the bowel. And specifically for women, the uterus. Okay, so this muscle, as small as it seems, does a lot of work. So let's have a closer look at the muscle itself. So next slide, please. Can everyone see this image? So this is a bird's eye view image of the pelvis. And you can see specifically the pelvic floor muscles. These colored areas are all the pelvic floor muscles, and you can see which area that they attach to. Sorry guys, I couldn't find an image of a male pelvic floor from bird's eye view. But with men, just forget about this thing that we call the vaginal canal. But for men, we have our urethra, and this is the origin area of it roughly. Now these muscles play a particular function in terms of contracting and holding the organs to keep them firm and keep them in position. Now, overall, the reason why this is important is because it helps to prevent episodes of what we call accidental urination, accidental bowel movements, incontinence. Now, if these muscles relax as per usual, as per their actual function, then you are actually able to urinate and you're actually able to avoid your bladder and your bowels properly. Everyone with me? So next slide, please. Now, there are specific issues with the pelvic floor that a lot of people may not be aware of. Some of us might be aware of it. But the pelvic floor muscles, because it's a group of muscles, it does need to be exercised to maintain adequate strength and maintain adequate function. Now, there are occurrences where the pelvic floor, for one reason or another, loses function and it starts to relax involuntarily. Maybe because of weakness, loss of tone, so many different reasons. But I've tried to just gather together some examples where there would be weakness relating to these pelvic floor muscles. Pregnancy, childbirth, the general aging process, obesity, excessive strain if we're trying to push too hard when we're going to the toilet to avoid our bowels, surgery, including prostate surgeries, hysterectomies, and also injuries of the musculoskeletal system, specifically around the hips or the pelvis or the lower spine, can also affect the function of these muscles. Next slide, please. Looking at these images here, there are problems that can arise, as I've mentioned already, and a medical condition called pelvic floor dysfunction is something that's quite common, but a lot of people ignore it or don't know actually what it is. Now, this is as a result of muscle weakness relating to that pelvic floor region. Common examples: prolapse, urinary urgency, so if you're having to run to the toilet very, very quickly. If you're noticing abnormal bulges that are internal or even external, can be as a result of the pelvic floor dysfunction. I've mentioned about incontinence earlier, and this is something that affects men as well as women, and a lot of people don't talk about it. And that could be as a result of the muscles being weak, not being able to hold themselves properly in the areas that they are actually supposed to be holding. Now, the images on the right-hand side are quite small, but again, I've got my presentation slides if anyone would need it. There are different types of prolapse, okay? Different types of prolapse. Has anyone seen a prolapse before? The one and only time I've seen it, it still stays in my head, and this was about 8 years ago I saw it. I still have the image of the client that I think they had a bladder prolapse. It's not all the time that it will become a very, very severe problem, but over time, if the pelvic muscles are not working, they're not being conditioned very well, it can lead to things like prolapse. And general pain around the pelvic, what we call the pelvic girdle, is the area where the pelvis is sitting that can be causing some pain in that area. Again, if the muscles there are too tight or too relaxed over a period of time. Next slide, please. The pelvic floor muscles have 5 particular functions. Oh, sorry. Can we go back, please? I want to go back to the functions. Thank you. So the pelvic floor have 5 particular functions. The first one, like we mentioned, to support the bladder, the bowel, the uterus, and also the prostate organs. The second one is to maintain continence, to avoid any episodes of accidental urination or accidental bowel movements. And number 3, they help to support the movement and stability of the pelvis, the upper legs, and also the trunk and the general torso, so what we call the core muscle groups. Now, one thing what I found when I was researching is that the pelvic floor also play a particular role in terms of assisting circulation. Now, the way they do this is to create a pump system which helps the blood flow from the legs and to maintain the flow of fluid and blood around the abdominal cavity to minimize things like congestion or abnormal swelling. Little did I know as well that the pelvic floor muscles also help with facilitating sexual performance. Now, there are layers of these pelvic floor muscles. The more superficial areas help to contribute towards stimulating or maintaining a genital erection. Okay, that's for male and as well for women as well, but we can discuss that one-to-one if you want to. So these pelvic floor muscles, as small as they are, as I've mentioned already, have 5 key functions. And all of this is very, very important to maintaining that health around our pelvic region. Next slide, please. Sorry, can we go back 2 slides? General evidence, there's so much evidence that's outside regarding the pelvic floor muscles. I've tried to gather as much recent evidence as possible. The first one mentions about how the pelvic muscles are the first line of treatment for managing urinary incontinence in people of all ages. So everybody is sitting here that has or should have a pelvic floor. Now, if you don't, you would know about it. Okay? But everyone sitting here, the fact that you're not having to, move too much or aren't too uncomfortable tells us that your pelvic floor should be active. There are other evidences that suggest that pelvic floor muscles strengthening can also help with managing symptoms of lower back pain. And other evidences, I think we've mentioned before about erectile dysfunction, and the pelvic floor muscles, looking at the attachments of where they are, can also support erectile erections, should I say? So genital erections, but there are evidences that would suggest that the pelvic floor muscles training is effective in treating erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation. Now, around 40% of women, and again, sorry women, but I couldn't find much evidence on the men, but I know that it does affect men, but we do not talk about it. Maybe because we don't talk about it as to why the records are not there for us to easily access. But around 40% of women do not perform pelvic floor exercises correctly. And also, looking at the other evidences is that women that have been through pregnancy do suffer from a lot of musculoskeletal problems around the hips and around the pelvis region as well, and there's not much attention given to them postpartum. And it's something that's quite shocking to me, because going through that kind of process of delivering a child, whether it be natural, whether it be through a cesarean, there are a lot of damages that can be kind of created muscularly. And if these muscles are not then treated or then not then exercised properly, it can kind of lead to long-term unnecessary issues, such as incontinence, which is quite a big problem postpartum for a lot of a lot of women. Furthermore, physiotherapy is effective in treating pelvic health problems, especially with the pelvic floor. Okay. Now, it's all good sitting and listening to the word and nodding our heads and thinking about, what is this guy talking about? But I want us to practice it together today. Okay? So how are we going to work on these pelvic floor muscles? Is everybody sitting comfortably? I'll just give you a second to just adjust. So the pelvic floor muscles are very, very easy to exercise. So we can all do it. You can do it in sitting, you can do it in standing, you can do it laying down. You can do it with your eyes closed, with your eyes open, however you feel fit to do it. The first thing you're going to do is sit comfortably, which we are all doing. Okay. So just following the instructions on the screen. So think about the area in between kind of your private parts. Okay? Just think. Don't do anything. Just think about that area. Just let the brain and that area, let them connect. Let them shake hands. Let them know what's happening. Okay? So just think about that area. Now, I want you guys to practice squeezing gently, as though you're trying to stop yourself from urinating or releasing the front part of your private area. Okay? You can relax if you've been doing it. Relax. Okay? So just get that relationship going. So we're going to practice that again. So think about that area in between your private parts and squeeze as though you want to stop yourself from releasing. Hold that for 5 seconds. Try not to hold your breath. And everyone relax. Okay? So if you're holding your breath when you're doing that, you're using your abdominals and your upper part of your body. So that's not how to do the exercise. Try to hold that area from trying to stop yourself from weeing. If you hold your breath, you're not doing it correctly. So try again. Let's take it from the top. So think about that area. Squeeze as though you're trying to stop yourself from urinating. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and gently relax. Okay? It's not easy because we haven't practiced it. Okay, so this is just a very simple way to activate those muscles. Now, you can do it without people even knowing that you're doing this exercise. Okay, when you're working, you can do this, what we call activations. Okay, so you can squeeze and release, or you can squeeze, hold, and release. I would recommend that everyone just starts doing the squeeze and release first of all. Okay, and if you're really active and if you're really competitive, then you can try to give yourself some targets to hold 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and you keep building it from then on. Very, very simple. Everyone can do that? Okay. So we should all be able to practice that in any form, wherever we are. Can I get 2 volunteers, please? No, I'm the one asking questions. 2 volunteers. Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Give them a round of applause. So what we're going to practice together is what we call the bridge exercise, okay? So can I get one person here? Can I get my jacket, please? And then a second person, thank you. If you come this way, please. Are you okay to sit down on the floor? If you just cover her legs, that's fine. Are you okay to lay on your back, please? Okay, can you bend your knees? Okay, so that exercise we just practiced sitting down. We're going to practice that again laying down. But this time, my 2 volunteers who have kindly come out are going to help us by lifting up their hips off the ground. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Hips up. Good. And gently down. For those in the front row, they can see them very well. For those in the back row, you can stand up to see what they're doing. So we're going to do that again. So squeeze that area in between your private areas. And then gently raise up in 3, 2, 1, up. Good, and gently down. Okay, we're going to do 3 more. Okay, you're doing really well. Ready? 3, 2, 1, up we go. Good, and gently down. 2 more. Give them a round of applause. Encourage them. Let's go, 1 more time. Up we go. 3, 2, 1, up. Good, and gently down. All right, last one. Give them encouragement, guys. Give them encouragement. Last one. 3, 2, 1, up. Good, and gently down. Good, well done. Give them a round of applause, please. You can sit up. All right, and have a stand up, please. Thank you so much. Give them a round of applause, everybody. Fantastic. Give them a round of applause. Keep going till they sit down. Till they sit down. Thank you very much. So that exercise they've just practiced there is called a bridge. Okay, so you're just creating a pathway underneath your body. So if you can exercise those muscles specifically, it's really good for your core, your pelvic floor, and also for your back side as well, what we call the gluteus maximus group. Okay? Thank you very much for listening to me, everybody. And I'm taking questions afterwards. Thank you so much.
Please put your hands together for Dr. Anthony Adeyileka. I'm sure going to try the exercise when I get home. Okay, I can even be doing it as I'm standing. Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm practicing. Can you see me? All right, we'll move on to our next session. And this time around, we're talking about nutrition health. My body speaks and hears. Can you talk to your body? Can you hear your body speak? All right. So we're going to know how that works when we bring on stage our guest. But our guest today, media, I'll excuse you this time around. I'll do the introduction myself. She's from a health and nutrition company that helps people steer away from today's lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, cholesterol, high blood pressure, stroke, and all the likes. You know why they do this? Because they are aware that a lot of people in our community is affected by these many factors. And how do they do this? They do this by educating people on how to prepare and cook traditional food using revolutionary cooking techniques. They cook, fry with no oils. I want to see how that happens. You fry your food, and you're not using air fryer. You cook, fry with no oils, cook vegetables with no water, and keep on average 93% of the nutrition in your meals. At least there's a way to cook vegetables and not boil all the nutrition away. Through their revolutionary methods, you can turn your food actually into natural medicine and your kitchen into a clinic. So we're not going to have kitchen full of salt, Maggi, and all the likes, and oil, sunflower, this one, vegetable oil. They're currently, okay, I think I'll just stop like that. I need her to come and educate us on how to do all of this. Please put your hands together as I bring on stage Pamela. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You need that. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Are you hearing me okay? I just want to give God the glory and give God all the praises, because without him we are nothing. We have to give him praises. The fact we wake up this morning, we have to give him the glory. A lot of people didn't wake up this morning, and it's not because they weren't healthy, because their time has come. But we are here today making a change in our life to make sure that whatever we do from today, it's not just coming here and hearing all of those lovely ladies and gentlemen speaking about health and not taking authority over your health. We need to take authority over our health, because our health is our wealth. There is nothing that God has given us more precious than our health. As they talk about, we have 2 kidneys, we have the liver, we have our heart. This is our engine, and I'm here to educate you a little bit about your engine. I know all of the speakers have talked about, all of what you can do to actually help you. But for me personally, I believe that it don't matter what you do, if you're not cooking and eating your food in a cleaner and healthier way, none of what they've said, no disrespect, do not matter. Because food is one of the most important medicine that you can have. Food is so important, and the Bible speak about health in so many ways. I hear this lovely doctor, she talked about John 3, 1 verse 2. Isaiah 58. There is so much scriptures in the Bible talk about health. And when God put us on this earth, He's put us for a purpose. Every one of us have our purpose, but are we living our purpose? They talk about today about how much. This man was asking a question, and I find it really, he said, would I rather die healthy young than live old and sick? And that's what's happening to our generation right now. People are living longer, but guess what? They're living with so much genetic pains and problem. My name, as you know, is Pamela Williams Doyley, and I'll give you a little bit about my background because I was away, so I didn't, I traveled a lot, and I was away. They didn't get their chance to really give you my bio. I'm a qualified social worker for 20-odd years. And anyone here is social worker, you know the stress that comes with social work. I went to the doctor once because I was having a headache. I start off with one tablet, which is a blood pressure tablet. And that blood pressure tablet become with a water tablet. Then you're pre-diabetic. And from one thing to the other, you're looking at somebody that used to be on 24 tablets a day and not even painkiller. I had every sickness that you can think of. Every single one except cancer. And I didn't know how far I was away from cancer. Why? Because I choose to think that my wealth was the house, the car, having money in the bank, wearing designer clothes, wearing this, looking that, the long hair, working hours upon hours, not getting enough rest. We talk about we need sleep, we need rest. Our mindset. Society has get our mindset in a way that we don't really think about what is really important. You're looking at someone had 2 heart attacks, 2 strokes. You're looking at someone that actually walking with 2 walking sticks. Doctor told me I will never walk again. I was introduced to Salad Master coming from a hospital appointment in Guide St. Thomas. There was a lady crossing the road, and I was struggling with my 2 walking sticks crossing the road. And she said to me, have you heard about Salad Master? And just like me, I was ignorant. And I said, but I eat salad every day. I'm from the Caribbean. I said, I eat salad. She said, start laughing. And I think it was funny. And I think, oh, I'm fat. You're looking at me now? I was a size 30. Not because of overeating, because my body was getting the wrong thing and the amount of tablet that I was on. That's part of my story. When they told me about, the lady said to me, I promise you, I wanted to give her my wrong number. She said, I'll give somebody your number and they will call you and cook for you. I said, I can't cook. I don't need nobody to come and cook for me. And I promise you, I wanted to give her the wrong number. And the Holy Spirit let me give her the right number. How much of us give people the wrong number when they ask us a number? We give them the wrong number. I was one of those persons. But you know what? God had a plan for me. And the plan he had for me is for me to help to change other people's life. Because it had changed my life. And when they called me 3 times and the lady said to me, oh, we fry without no oil and we cook without no water. I said, them mad, that's something they want to sell me. It's something they want to sell me. That's what I was thinking mentally. And the 4th time that lady, because I never, and ladies and gentlemen, if you're trying to help somebody in here today, never give up on someone. Never give up on someone. Because if that lady did not call me back 4 times, I would not be here. I'm a mother of 5 children and 5 grandchildren. I only had 1 grandchildren. I wouldn't be here to see my other 4 grandchildren. So never give up on someone to help them to change their life. We are women and men of God. We are kingdom keepers. And we're not supposed to just live for ourselves. Live for your brothers and your sisters. Be your sisters and your brothers' keeper. Be there for them. As I said, we always need someone with you. Never. I love when she said that as a woman, we don't talk to our husband and our husband do not talk to us. We don't talk to our spouse. We don't talk to our children and our children don't talk to us. In our household now, what I've seen in our household, the children, they take the dinner and they go to the bedroom. So I'm here now. We are bringing back the movement to healthy home cooking and family. They said a family who eats together, stays together. A community. One parents don't raise a child. A community raise children. So because your sister, your brother is going to tell off your child, you're going to cuss them off. No. So when that lady, come back to the story, when that lady came and cooked for me, she did a thing called a carrot test. I don't know if anybody here who is using Salad Master. Anyone? Yeah. And I tell you something, it had changed my life. Phenomenal. My husband actually said to me, when we hear the price, he said, "No, sir." And he walked out. And I said, yes. I said to the lady, if this is from God, my credit is so bad, but if it's from God, I'm going to fill up the form, and if my credit go through, I know it's from God. 2 hours after the lady called me back, and I was sitting in my kitchen drawing. I one of those chairs where you draw in the kitchen. I know what it is to lose everything. I don't know if anyone knows in Stratham. I had a house in Stratham. You know them 3 storage houses there? Falling down the stairs, can't go upstairs because of health issue. You can have it all, but you can't walk in those red heel boots no more when you don't have good health. You can't do nothing to help yourself. So I'm here just to talk to you a little bit about health. Oh yes, yeah, you see what I used to look like? And that's me now. Glory be to God. So one of the things that we're talking about today is health. And health is so important. And ladies and gentlemen, you have here some great speaker. Don't just take it and go home and forget about it. Change your ways. Do something about that. If you're healthy, it's the best time to start doing it. Don't wait until you're sick. We talk about that. Most people wait until they're sick before they take action. If I had known about Salad Master before I reached that, I would invest in it because health is very important. And I always say to people right now, health is one of the most important things. I know Mika, she talked, all of you ladies, you touch on fibers today and you touch on health. But one of the things that I can say to you, food is such an important thing. And a lot of you want to know food. Food is one of the things that anything grows underneath the earth. The vitamins and minerals is in the skin. So when you start peeling your food, you're losing 50% of the goodness to your bin. And then what most of us does, we go underneath the sink and we start washing it now. Another 25% of it, because most of our food are water soluble. So when we start washing them after we peel them, we are losing 20% of the goodness in the sink. So what now in our household, when we think we are the healthiest, our bin and our sink is more healthy than we. That's what we're doing. And then when we're cooking, we put on the stove our cookware that we have at home, and we bring it up to boil over 100 degrees. If you put your hand over it, what happened to your hands? So when we're putting our food at that high temperature, what we're doing, we're killing everything that left in it. But we can't eat it like that. So what you do, you go buy the Maggi, the salt, the all-purpose, and all of those preservative, and we add to the trash that we already have in our cookware. Sorry, but it's trash. Because if you're losing the vitamins and the mineral, what you're left with is trash. One doctor I did a study with, his name is Dr. Neil Barnett. He's in America, and he's a specialist in food for life classes, where he teach about how to reverse diabetes using food, how to cure cancer using food. He said food is one of the most important things. They said tablets, radiation, it sustains the problem. When you do chemo, it sustains the problem, but it don't cure the problem. The only thing goes to and just to let you know, I'm not a medical doctor, but I've done my research. And this is something that you can go and do too. I've done all my research. And what he said, he demonstrated in our class this way. If you go to Costco and buy a plant, you expect the plant to grow. So what we normally do is buy a bigger pot. When we buy that bigger pot, what we do, we buy the right dirt for it. And we come home and we transform that plant. But who do you put cooking oil as water to water that plant? You would make sure you water it. If you go to the petrol station and you buy petrol put into your car, you make sure if you use diesel, you put in diesel. If you put unleaded, what happened to the car? But God has created our body in such a miraculous way. Our body is a temple of God. But we treasure the car and make sure we're putting in the right petrol in the car. But we're not doing it to ourselves. We're not doing that to ourselves. But we're making sure we put the right petrol. Because if the car breaks down there, we can call the AA. But if we break down, what happened? There's two things. It's either the ambulance or the other van to take us up to put on the ice. That's the two things happen to us. If our car breaks down, we can call Uber. We can call the AA. But what happened to us? What happened to your children? What will happen to your grandchildren? What happened to the people you left behind because you did not make that decision to change your lifestyle? And one of the things we say in our business is say, change your life, change your cookware, change your life. And it's such a remarkable thing, the way we cook. Imagine cooking your food and retaining 93% of the nutrients. As a nurse, she can tell you, your body needs about 50% of nutrients to survive per day. And most people only take in about 5 to 10% of nutrient per day, the way they cook and prepare their food. Because imagine 50% is in the bin, another 20% down the drain, and then you put it on a high heat over 100 degree, and you lost everything. Say, for instance, you're cooking your broccoli. What color the water turn? Green. That means all your nutrients is gone. Not only that, the cookware that we're cooking from, most of those cookware, the metal, it reacts with the enzyme from the food. And if it's reacting to the enzyme from the food, that means you're not only losing your nutrients, but you're putting in metal in the body. I can trust you right now. If about 98% of you sitting in here right now have Teflon metal in your body. If you go to any private hospital, go do that blood test. Tell your doctor, can you check how much in metal I have in my body? They can tell you have stainless steel, non-stick, aluminum, all of those. It's funny. But it's serious. The missing link, I know the missing link to everything that we go through as ethnic background. The missing link is a saucepan that we use. A lot of people don't think about it. But have you ever go buy a saucepan and look on the warning sign? You know that red sign at the bottom? Have you ever read that red sign there? No one ever read it because we were taught to go buy a cookware anywhere, wash it, put it on the stove, and start cooking. Remember, They just talk about our foreparents never used to cook from those cookware that we're cooking from. They used to cook from this iron pot, and they used to use the wood fire and the coal stove. I remember went to see my grandmother. And my grandmother had a 3-foot cookware, and I was just laughing. When I was a little bit, I was wondering, because I never seen that before. And when my grandmother cooked, she turned it upside down over the stove, and I was wondering why. Now I know, doing my research and knowing my expert being on cookware. You know the dashi, or the iron pot where we use? When we cook, we normally now just put it back in the cupboard. Now you start seeing those black pulls inside of it, and it starts changing color. Where you think all those material went? Went in your body. Aluminum cookware is linked to Alzheimer's disease. But not only that, what you need to look on to, most of our things that we use on our body, our roll-on and all of those. Remember, our skin is one of the biggest organs. And when we start using things like roll-on, and if you look, go into any store and look, one of the main ingredients is aluminum. And aluminum is linked to Alzheimer's disease. Our body spray we use has aluminum in it, linked to Alzheimer's disease. The cookware we use has aluminum in it, linked to Alzheimer's disease. So unconsciously, we are the one that giving ourselves disease. Unconsciously. There are options out there. And as the sister said, don't go look for what the cheapest things to get. And we always do. It talks about that. It's very important that we look at the things we do. Can we change? It's never too late to change. Listen, when the doctor looked at me and he said to me, because of your age, you're already in your 50s. This is from 2014, 15. He said, you're already in your 50s. And when you're in that age, they said your body, you can't repair yourself no more. But I tell you, God has created us amazing. The body can repair itself from anything that it can. But guess me how you repair it. If you give the body what it wants, the body repairs itself. The body repairs itself from anything that you give it. It's so amazing. I had this girl, I'm just giving a quick testimony of her. She was going to do a major operation a few months ago. And a doctor, I started tell her, you know what, change your diet. And she went plant-based for 2 months before she went to do the operation. And if I tell you, the doctors then were so amazed. She was supposed to spend 10 days in hospital. She only spent 2 days. They can't believe, our body just recover so much. And she never eat no food from hospital. Everything was cooked from our cookware and bring to her. And our body would just recover so much. And she was amazed. 6 months off of work, she went back to work in 1 month. That's what they gave her, 6 months, because of the major operation she had to do. So one of the things that you ladies talk about is fiber. Do you know you need 40 grams of fiber to survive? 40 grams. How many of us eat even 5 grams a day? The most you get grams from is beans. But when you boil your beans, okay, say for instance you're cooking your beans now. The water dried down, you had more water to it, right? The water dried down, you had more water to it. The dried down, you had more water to it. Guess what happened at the end? All the fibers from the bean is gone. And to bring back the flavor of the bean now, we had Maggi all-purpose chicken season, all the season to bring back the flavor. But in our healthy system cookware, if I'm cooking beans right now, because I have to eat beans all the time, because I need my 40 grams of beans, because what that does, it regulate your blood sugar. It remove excess cholesterol from the body. It remove the hormone. One other thing, I did a class the other day about menopause, and I'm glad you're touching it, because fiber is so important to menopause. It's one of the most important things, because it helps the hormones to level out back itself when you have enough fibers in the body. It level out all of that. So removing that toxin from the body, it helps you to go to the bathroom more quicker if you have enough fibers. From beans, you can get 14 grams from beans by cooking beans the right way, which is like just put it to soak and less water, and that little water you put in is going to cook it and no dry out. Don't dry out whatsoever. All grain, you get 5 grams. From vegetable and nuts, you get 5. From some vegetable, 4 grams. Fruits, you get 3 grams. But having beans give you 14 grams of that. So that is very important. Okay. I know one of you ladies, you were talking about the Britain Today, and but all of you touching it. Can we put up Britain Today, please? I just want everyone to actually see Britain Today. And this statistic was done last year about Britain and what's happening right now in Britain. It's one of the most... if we do Britain Today and tomorrow, not this one, I think it's the last... it's called Britain Today with the cancer, diabetes, heart disease, obesity. Obesity? Yeah. It's not this one. I think it's this page here. Is he seeing? Is it there? No, it's not that one. Okay, let me read it here. This is Britain Today and tomorrow. In the UK, every 2 minutes somebody get diagnosed with cancer. My time is going to have 1 minute. One of the things that I want to say to you, they said 35 to 60% of our diet contribute to cancer. Last year alone, 393 persons get diagnosed with cancer. And guess what? 18,100 out of that is overweight, obesity. So, let me ask you now, that means 90% of that is by lifestyle factors. How we cook and prepare our food, that is one of the most important things. Diabetes last year in the UK, this is by the Diabetes UK, killed 3.8 million people died last year from diabetes. They say 700 people told every minute that they have diabetes in the UK, and this is from Diabetes UK. That means if there is 3,930 persons diagnosed with cancer, that means it's 1,100 per day. That means it's every 90 seconds somebody told they have cancer. You remember I talk about how you pronounce it about your plant? Guess what? If you give the plant water and the right food, it grows. They said we are born. Would you agree, nurses and doctors? We've been born with these cells inside of us. They said we have cancer cell, we have diabetes, we have all sorts of cells inside of us. And if we're feeding our body with the wrong food, these cells will grow. So if we're eating the silent killer salt, the high blood pressure will come, the diabetes will come. If we're taking Maggi and all of those things, the disease will come. There is no way of getting rid of it. The disease will come. They said coronary disease, and I know you talk about the heart disease, but do you know there are 7.6 million people? This is from the British Heart Foundation. There is 7.6 million people with coronary disease living in the UK with heart problem. Guess what? The vegetable oil, all of those oil. When I go into supermarket and I see, especially we are the ethnic background, they have how much liters, buckle oil, the panda oil, the this oil, all type of oil. You remember the nurse, she said, look at her hair, not as thick as this, but the small hair. That is how our arteries, how small our arteries is. And imagine we're blocking up our arteries with all of those oil. Yeah? We are blocking up our arteries with all of those oil. If you want to use oil, use cold press oil. Cold press oil is the only oil that you can heat up over 40 degrees and it don't become saturated fat. But every oil that we use actually becomes saturated fat if we're eating up over 40 degrees. Remember, as I only have 2 minutes left, if you want to come, I'm gonna be over the table there. So let us continue just a minute. So if you're using any other oil, look for rapeseed oil. Olive oil is not made to cook with. If you eat up olive oil, it will give you heart disease over 40 degrees. Olive oil is supposed to drivel over warm food or cold food, not to be cooked with. Coconut oil is not to be cooked with. If you eat it up over 40 degrees, it becomes saturated fat. Listen, ladies, don't worry about what we have around the waistline and all. Worry about what's in the arteries, what's blocking up the heart. If you're walking like this and you start going like this, it's telling you that you have fats in the arteries. Nobody know. You know one of the greatest thing? We cannot see what's inside of us. So why not protect it? God gave us one heart, and that is our engine. And that's what drives us. Food is one of the most important things. When we cook our food and prepare our food, pay attention to how and what we eat, because that is so important. I know you might think like, oh my God, I'm doing it for a while, but guys, you're kingdom people, and kingdom people do the right thing. Don't worry about anything else but making sure you're taking care of you. If you're married here today, if your head hurts you, your husband only can say, darling, how, but your husband don't know your pain. Your wife don't know your pain. So you are responsible for each one of your health. But guess what? When we become mothers, we are responsible for our children's health. And one of the things that they have researched and found out, I'm going to be closing on this. They said by the year 2025, 1 in 2 children will start getting diabetes. And that is from a 2-year-old to a 12-year-old. And that is scary for me when I think about that, because of all of the things that we're putting into our children's body and in our body. And if we cannot take care of ourselves, we're not going to be able to take care of our children. Guys, my table is going to be open up over there. Come and see me. Please come and see me. I'm going to be cutting a salad. You ever hear the saying, they say rainbow of the heart? I'm going to be cutting a rainbow salad, and I want all of you to come and taste that rainbow salad. I'm going to prepare it, and then you're going to come and watch me prepare it and have a taste of that. And we have some lovely cake over there that make from everything in the rainbow salad. No sugar, no butter, nothing. Okay? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No sugar cake, no butter cake. I need to see that cake. Thank you very much, ma'am. That was a wonderful presentation. So I have a keg of sunflower oil at home. What should I do with that now? Throw it away. Block. Wow. All right, we'll quickly move on to our last session. But before then, for those of us that came very late, we'll have one-to-one consultation, especially in the area of fertility, prostate, and menopause and andropause. For fertility, please kindly see Olumide one-to-one after the sessions. And for prostate, please see, who do we see now? Menopause and andropause, please see Yinka. And for our kidney health, please we'll see Rosalind. Okay. we'll like to call on our very last speaker, and he will be speaking on My Family Matters, our mind, soul, and well-being health. Please, media, can we have the intro for the last speaker?
Please meet Albert Achemfo, a dialysis clinical matron in St. Helier NHS Trust UK. Is also the chairman of the Nightingale Nurses Association. Albert Achemfo is the national coordinator of Christian Healthcare Professional Network, which is a subsidiary of the Church of Pentecost in the United Kingdom. He has to his credit an MSc Advanced Healthcare Practice, MSc Advanced Nurse Practitioner, and Postgraduate Certificate Independent and Supplementary Nurse Prescribing. Is the author of The Effect of Vancomycin and Gentamicin in Dialysis Patients, presented at the European Dialysis and Transplantation Nurses Conference in Valencia, Spain in 2016, at the Renal Association Conference in the United Kingdom also in 2016. His interest lies in charitable work and supporting students in their academic field. On a lighter note, his hobbies are photography and videography. Please welcome to the Elevation Point Health Seminar, Albert Achemfo.
Thank you very much, and we're quite happy to come back home again with the Nightingale Nurses Association. Please applaud them. And we're quite happy to see the Kidney Research UK as well. We have been doing some good work with them, and we're quite proud seeing you as well. Thank you, Mom. So, the last speaker said we have been unconsciously passing on diseases to ourselves. And I would like you to turn to your neighbor to say, we have been unconsciously causing mental health issues at home. Unconsciously, we've been doing it. So I'll start with a question. How long do you think medical knowledge doubled? So the medical knowledge that we've got in the world now, how long do you think it will take to say double? A quick one? Just guess. Just say something in your own estimation. 5 what? 5 years? 5 years? 20 years? Mm-hmm. What, 3 years? 1 year? The truth is, it's 73 days. 73 days. So every medical knowledge doubles in 73 days. So when we're talking about medical and health, it's very important that we keep it close to ourselves. Because if we go into details, in 73 days, most of the information would have changed. Okay? Because there are a lot of researches being done from everywhere in the world. So what we're going to do today is that we are not going to tackle the mental health with what we know. Like talking about neurosis, psychosis, and all the diseases. We're not going to do that. We are bringing it home. Turn to your neighbor and say, we are bringing it home. Next place. So I want the slide to roll. Yes, sir. Yeah. I want the slide to roll. And because it's the last section, I want the slide to roll a bit quicker. Now, most of us are ethnic minorities, brought up in either the Caribbean, Africa, either east or west. And if you speak to your daughter and she does like this, what would you do? You do what? Okay. So if you speak to your daughter and she does this, what does it mean? Rude. Okay. Next one, please. Next slide. What about this? It's a sign of disrespect, isn't it? Good. Next place. This one. What do you think? No, so listening. Not interested. Don't tell me. And next one. This. Yeah, I'm not afraid of you. It's something like that. Yeah? Uh-huh. So in some of the cultures, like in my culture, when kids look straight when adult is speaking, it is a kind of disrespect. Okay? And when you ask a Caucasian the same thing, they will say the kid is engaging. Okay? What makes the difference? So again, perception is one, but what makes the real difference? Is what? Someone mentions something here. One, culture. Two, what? Environment. And three, our norms and values. Okay? So if you've been cultured to live in a particular way, and then you find yourself in another environment, and they have also been cultured to live in a particular way, then there is what? A conflict. So next, please. Next. So we've mentioned that our values, and values are what we all grew up with. So if you live in a household, or you live with disciplined parents, and nothing else could be accepted than honesty, and you grew up with that mentality, then you will become a honest person, regardless of the repercussions. If you live in an environment or home with full of kindness, your parents invite people home, and you see that is been happening whilst you're growing, it's very likely that you also be kind and generous. So these are the things that we all grew up with. Yeah? Some people live in a courageous family. They see their uncles very courageous. It motivates them to also become courageous in future. So these are the things. Next one, please. So our values are the beliefs that people use to give meaning to their lives. So example, what we've just examined, the meaning is based on our values. The meaning that if I speak with the little one and she is doing this, is disrespectful, came from what? My values. But as I said, a Caucasian might not necessarily say that. A Caucasian might say, maybe I'm irritating my daughter. Okay? But we don't see it like that. It's based on our values and our understanding. Now, values could be good, bad, right, or wrong, and just or unjust. That is how we all differentiate it. So when I am telling my daughter to do something, and then she does that, another person will say, oh, the man is not doing the right thing. Another person with the same values as I am will say, the man is doing the right thing. Okay? The man is trying to discipline the daughter. Another person with a different value will say, the man is irritating his daughter. So we all have different set of values, and that is what sometimes bring about conflict. Now, let's just take it this way. If woman has got a different value, and Baba Tunde has got a different value, they've come together in a family setting. Is there a potential bomb? It is a potential bomb. But we don't see it like that. Okay? So we're going to do something today. And the thing that we do, will demonstrate to us that we are causing a lot of mental health issues in our own homes. And that is what we're going to seek to do today. Next, please. But for us to know, next, please. Next. For us to know, back by one. For us to know whether what we are doing at home or the association we belong to or the kind of relationship we had with friends, whether it's creating conflict that is generating mental health issues, we have to go with this. One, the value conflict diagram. So one person, like typically, the children that I have seen growing up in this country, my children, they grew up with freedom. I did not really grow up with that much freedom for children. Okay? We have set rules, and I have to follow those set rules. The children grew up with a lot of freedom. Now, I, as a parent, I want my daughter to be successful. Okay? For my daughter to be successful, it means that there shouldn't be enough what? Freedom. Because when my dad wanted me to be successful, I didn't have enough freedom. I finished my normal school, come home, bath, have a little play, and then back to the books. My daughter doesn't necessarily follow this, but I want her to be successful. And the only way that I will make my daughter successful, the only way that I know is what? Take a little bit of freedom away and you discipline her to do the right thing. Okay? But the culture and the environment that we are in does not bring up children in that way. So if you are not if you are not careful, you will be introducing a lot of things in the family that is not conducive. And mental illness can come out of that. Much clearer? Good. Let's go to the next one. Now, for us to be able to know the consequence of things that we are dealing with, now we have to watch out for the warning signs. That is the first line. Okay? So if your child is withdrawing, it's a warning sign. But most of the time we ignore that. Okay? So there are a lot of things that we have to look at the facial expression. Maybe your wife is not happy and she frowns. Okay? You should know, what have I done? Okay? Like, Albert, what have I done? Okay? Because I've realized that she started frowning. So, in a gentle way, I go and ask, and if I need to say I'm so sorry, then I say it. At the early stage, you deal with it, okay? But sometimes we ignore all this. Next, please. And then the emotions get piling up. Next. Now, these emotions are the first sign. And people will say, you can be silent, but your emotions will betray you. But we are also not people that have been trained to understand emotions. Okay? And sometimes we have to learn picking up emotions quickly and deal with issues so that it doesn't get to the level where people will be having anxiety and stress. Next, please. So let's talk through few. Emotions are quite a lot. It's a lot. Next, please. And when you are interpreting emotion, interpret it well. I remember there was a time that, no, I won't use this example. Let me just proceed. Okay. So, emotions comes with three things. One, thoughts, feeling, and then a behavior. So, example, when I enter a room and people are just having a normal communication, and then suddenly when they saw me, they decided to stop speaking. my thoughts will be that maybe they were talking about me. So my thoughts will go first, and then I'll feel bad, and then I'll react. So emotions are thoughts, feelings, and what? Behavior. We should understand this because we'll come to it. So the three components of emotions, it arouses us. That is what? Our thoughts. And then our experience will also come in. And then we do what? We act. Much clearer? Good. Now, when you do all these three things, which is the component of emotion, we can look at the things that normally pushes us into a mental health condition. One can be anxiety, sadness, frustration, anger. These are little things that we always see at home, but we are not thinking about it the way we should, and it plunges us into mental health issues constantly. Next, please. So, when we want to talk about anxiety, we ask ourselves, what is anxiety? Anxiety is a natural emotion which involves thought, uncontrollably takes us to the future unpredictable event. Example, when I was a kid, anytime my dad comes, I know that I have to be bathed. Yeah? So around 5, sometimes he comes through the main entrance, so you see his car. There was a time that I don't know what happened to his car, but he didn't come home with the car. And before I go home, he was in there already. I became anxious. I didn't know what he would do to me when I enter. And I start thinking about it. That when I enter, Dad is going to beat me. So it was almost like I was thinking about the future. It's a thought, and I'm thinking about the future. What is going to happen? Okay? Maybe you've done something wrong that you feel that you shouldn't have been doing that. And then someone said, oh, I'll tell headmaster or headmistress about it. And you start thinking, maybe you did not do well in exams, and you feel you're going to fail, and you just say to yourself, if I fail, what will other people be saying about me? Those are what? Anxiety. Next, please. It's sadness. Sadness is a hope of loss, rejection. Okay? Hopelessness. We will come at today's definition. Next. Frustrations. Frustrations are an emotional response to unmet goals or expectation. Okay? So you have a goal, and you want to meet, and eventually the goal is not coming true. Then you get frustrated about it. Next, please. Anger, an emotional response to a perceived or intentional injury. The word here is perceived or intentional. So a lot of people get angry unnecessarily. Somebody might feel that I should be doing this or that. Meanwhile, it's a perception. The scenario I did put out earlier, it was a perception that someone is saying something about you. But actually, people can decide to stop communicating when you enter. Okay? So this is anger. So frustration sometimes become anger when unmet goals are directed towards people. So someone is frustrated, and they know that, I'm not doing well. The only reason why I'm not doing well is maybe I'm married to a particular person. And then they put the frustration on the person. Okay? So all these things we will come back to it. Next, please. Stress. Stress is our body's response to pressure from all described above. All that we have described above. Okay? So when you are going through and you are not resolving it, then it will end up with what? Stress. Next, please. Now, we struggle with all these things because of what? Our culture. And there is something called neuroticism. With neuroticism, what really happens is that people react excessively to something and they realize that what they've done is not right and they start getting stressed about it. Next place. Next place. So we all saw this man. Okay? He went and slapped the guy and then he had issues and they took off a lot of things off him. Okay? Everything that he's won, all the awards. Okay? They took it. So this is the way neuroticisms act. So example, maybe you are communicating with someone. Then you said something bad about the person. Then you say, oh, mama will hear about it. You feel very shy for mama to hear about your behavior. Okay? Then you start thinking about it. That is that. So all these things will come in. Next place. Now, we have explained what we call emotional dysregulation. We have anger, and the anger can lead you to do things. You feel strong about it, and then you act. Next, please. Next. Let's take this scenario. Kojo Bentum was a bank manager back home, married to Esther, who was then a student nurse. Esther traveled to the UK 2 years after completion of her nursing training. They are blessed with a baby girl called Yaya. Mr. Bentum and Yaya joined Esther 4 years ago when Mr. Bentum had tried as much as possible to get a job in the banking sector, but has not been successful so far. He now works as a part-time carer and sometimes a security officer in a local grocery shop. Esther does day shift and Mr. Bentum night shift. So this is a gentleman that is a bank manager back home, married to a student nurse who eventually graduated and brought the gentleman in. Now, when the gentleman was coming into the UK, the gentleman will probably be thinking, oh, I'm going to the UK. I'll get a job in the banking sector. Okay? UK is the world leading banking center. So he has got his own imagination. And quite soon, he soon realized that things are not like that. Okay? So now, when we go to the definition of what? Of frustration. Will Mr. Bentu be frustrated? Because frustration is an emotional response to what? Unmet goals. Okay? Now, when it becomes like that, the person begins to doubt himself. Okay? So you can see that there is a threat to his own sense of life. So he becomes feeling what? Stress. Stress is what? Threatens our sense of life. Self, okay? When we feel that we have a little control over the situation. So he's been here for 4 years and the kicking is not kicking. Okay? Sadness, a sense of loss. When he was home, he was probably commanding a lot of people. But he's lost all that. So is the man sad? Good. Anxiety. Is naturally our emotions, which involve thoughts of the future. So he will be anxious. He'll be thinking, is it going to work or not? So this scenario alone is a red flag for Mr. Bentum. Now, it's also a red flag for Esther. Esther was also cultured for a man to look after her. That is how we are also cultured. Okay? A man has to look after a woman. Now, Esther is rather doing a lot of job to do what? To pay for bills and compensate for Mr. Bentum's weakness. So is that also a red flag? And when somebody go and say to Esther, oh, as for me, my husband has been buying this, doing this, then it will be worse. Okay? So these are the situations that brings about issues, and if we are not careful and handle it well, then it will start creating problems at home, which eventually causes a mental health issue. Next, please. Mr. Benton has not been happy for several years now. He complains about Esther's behavior towards, well, it should be him. Forgive me about the typo. Abruptness, disrespect, and the fact that he is not consulted in anything regarding the household and her as a daughter. That shouldn't be the way it should go. Okay? Turn to your neighbor and say that we are causing mental health problems to each other. Okay? Although he's been doing all the school rounds, communications about his daughter, normally things have to go through Esther first before it comes to her. Before it comes to him. Okay? Esther chooses to tell him when she feels like. I'm sorry about the typo there. On one occasion, Esther arranged a mini holiday with Sayaya, and Mr. Bintum only got to know about it a night before the holiday. Another wrong move. Okay? When you do that, you are fueling the pressure at home. Okay? So, it said all attempted communication or discussion between the two of them end up in a kind of a quarrel, and they shout at each other. This has affected the marriage life. Okay? So these are the things we have to be aware about, the pressure that the men go through, and also the pressure that the women also go through. Because culturally, we are not brought up like that. We've got our own expectation. And if the expectations are not met, then we have the anxiety, frustrations, and all those are coming through. Next, please. Mr. Benkun confided in some leaders in the community who reassured him of prayers and advised him to speak to the uncle of Sir Esther. Mr. Benkun explained to the leader that a family friend has sat on the case on 3 occasions, but the situation gets wet all the time. So, because Mr. Benkun is not engaging well, when they call people to come in, everybody is going to defend his or her corner. And there is no resolution to the problem. Next, please. Next, please. So, all that we are trying to say, the anxiety, the irritation that comes, the disrespect, the restlessness, the worrying, if they are not controlled, then it will all be leading to what? Depression. This one, Nahu Ekosam, is our own. We are causing it. Okay? Now, next place. When things like this happen, now we have insight. If we didn't have any insight before we started this program, now we've got insight. Next place. And we have understanding of the challenges that people go through, the things that goes through them. If we want to deal about this, then we use the delude model. Okay? Now, if Mr. Benkun is communicating and he is shouting, okay, Esther should know that Mr. Benkun is not shouting at her. If Esther is also irritated and Esther is communicating in a way that is not deemed fit, Mr. Benkun should know that he is not a target. It's the frustrations that they are both experiencing. Okay? So delude, you don't think it's a personal. Okay? Engage. I have put in a patient there, but just ignore the patient. This shows that I'm a nurse. Okay? Engage with the person. Engage. Okay? You engage with the person. Then you listen to the person. You try to understand their problem. Okay? And then you do what? You find a solution. You could say, I could see that these days you are a bit irritated. It could be because of this or that. Okay, I know things are not the same in the UK, but we'll try as much as possible to work through, and it will be set better. Okay, don't pose as a threat to the other person, because once you do, you have a back. Yeah. Now, if you feel like you cannot deal with it, then you escalate it, because what you are seeing, if Esther is speaking in a bad way, what you are seeing is just the tip of the iceberg. The problem itself is that Esther is not trained to go to work to look after a man. Mama has confirmed. Mama said no. And once Mama has confirmed, it's final. Okay? So Esther will be a bit agitated. Okay? So if you are Mr. Benton, before Esther leaves work, you go and drive and you pick her up. You bring her home. You try and massage her a bit. Okay? Do some things to slow her down. Okay? Yeah, treat her good. Because you know that the position that you are, when they knock you, you are going. Okay? So you are a bit flexible at things. So try as much as possible to deal with each other's anxiety, frustrations, and stress. Because when we all stand in our own traditional way, that I'm the man, okay, it won't work. Okay? Because we've all been brought up in a particular way. And we have to be flexible because we're in a new environment. If we all decide to be in our own corner, hey, it won't work. Okay? So try as much as possible to do what? To talk about it. Okay? Reassure each other. Okay? And once you do that, you see that you'll be slowing the pressure down. Because one thing that normally happens is that when these things happen, ones become a threat to each other. Okay? And when that happens, things will go or fall apart. The next place. When you're engaging, there is one thing that you should do using the stubborn model. Using the stubborn model, you have to look at the source. Maybe Esther is speaking to people. So you are not dealing with Esther alone. Maybe Esther is speaking with the auntie. Maybe Esther is speaking with other people. So you have to know exactly what is going through Esther's thoughts. Okay? 2, time. It's not when Esther has come back from work and you haven't even massaged her that you want to speak to her. No. You wait till you massage her well. Okay? When she is relaxed, then you speak to her. Okay? And then you have to go with a soft voice, not the man voice. Okay? Amicable approach. Okay? Then your behavior too at home. Okay? You know that you are there already. It's just a knock, then you go down. So you have to behave well. Okay? Then also engage emotionally. And I believe once we put all together, we will be fine and mental health issue will be reduced at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chamfo. Please put your hands together well for him. You'll agree with Mr. Chamfo that taking care of our mental health is as important as taking care of our physical health. And please, you're not alone. Whatever it is you're going through, reach out to people who can help you. So if you know you've got issues in that line, please see Mr. Chamfo one-on-one before you leave today. Okay? All right, we've done all of this. We've said all of this. But there is one factor that is constant, and that is God. And that is why I want to invite our pastor. Oh, before we get to that point, I'm so much in a hurry. I think we should do a question and answer. We have for Anthony's session, for Pamela's session, and for Mr. Chamfon's session as well. All right, so I'll bring up Nancy again to take the question and answer session, and we'll just take like 2 people or 2 questions before we have the Father's blessing.
Oh. Are you all okay? Let's wise up and rise up again. Let's take that challenge. Exercising that authority. You have to make that choice today. You are what you eat. Your mindset. Your body. So, the floor is open. Questions and answers. I will be taking 2 people this time because of time. You have opportunity to see all the speakers on a one-to-one level. And I will stress that if you want to talk about fertility, please do see nurse practitioner Olumide. If you want to talk about andropause, menopause, please see Yinka. And if you want to talk about your kidney health, cholesterol, your cardiovascular, please see Dr. Roslyn. And if you want to talk about family, my family matters, please see Mr. Achamfo. And if you want to talk about the food, cooking without water, with no oil, please see Pamela. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank God and also thank Matron Nancy for inviting me and my friends to this seminar. Thank you so much. I want to ask Sister Pamela to please emphasize a little bit about the cooking. Well, you were saying something about the potatoes, the vegetables, we wash out everything. But in the real sense, we need to wash our vegetables. And if we want to use the cookware with our African cooking, like we have to cook wash the yam and everything and the beans. How do we go about it to get the best out of it?
Okay, thank you very much for asking that question, because I was like you thinking how I'm going to cook my yam and my banana and dumpling using no water. So we have a system. This is why Diabetes Association Worldwide is partnering with us. So we allow people, you know, when you have diabetes, the first thing they say to you, you can't eat yam, you can't eat potato and all of that. So we have a set of cookware, we call it a de-starcher. It was designed for that purpose. So it allows you to cook your yam and banana and plantain and cocoa, your cassava. But what it does, you don't have to peel the yam, you don't have to peel the cassava or none of that. You just put it in the cookware, just wash it on the outside, put it in the cookware, and it allows it to de-starch, to take out all the starch out of it. And when it's cooked, the outer layer, just like the horse, the food is the same thing. We have 2 skin. If we hit our hand on something, what will happen? We will bruise. But if we cut through the second layer of our skin, we start bleeding. So when we peel our food, we peel both first and second layer. You understand? So we allow, the cookware was designed in a special way that it keeps that nutrients in, but de-starch the yam and the banana. So we do normally do demonstrations, so you can come wearing, you can come at the table, find out our address. Sometimes we come to your house too, and we cook and show you how you cook. Imagine cooking your jollof rice and you fry up all those tomato and everything using no oil. In a clean and healthier way, and you don't have to put that cookware to soak for 3 days, because the more the oil you use, the whole of the bottom burn up. So it's about knowing how to cook your food in a cleaner and healthier way. Well, you can cook your yam, your traditional food. You can fry your fish using water. If you go to my Facebook, Instagram, and all that TikTok, you see me baking cake on top of the stove. The cake that I did today, I baked it this morning in 15 minutes on top of the stove. I bake on top of my stove. I fry my fish, roast my chicken, roast everything, do everything. So my oven in my house is retired. Oh, air fryer, my God. Come to me and I'll talk to you about the air fryer.
Thank you, Pamela. The challenge to change here is your choice. Remember, health is wealth. So you must make that decision today by walking up with your mindset. We've got our practitioner here, Acc Adeyileka, we help you with the area of fitness and your diet. That is very important. Our body is a temple of God, and we must begin to exercise that authority to be able to exercise this mission in this kingdom. This is what we are called to do, and that is our mission here on health. And to do that, you must look after your body, and it's part of obedience. Any question? The floor is open. You can ask. Let's give him opportunity. Whilst we do that, I've made that decision this second quarter of the year to change my diet and to look after my body weight, which is fitness. That is my decision. That is my choice. It is a challenge. I don't want you to leave here today without knowing your BMI, your body mass index, and I want you to work with that mindset. Make that decision today. The challenge is your choice. Body mass index, your body weight, your weight and your height. Okay, your BMI. So we'll do that calculation for you, so that you can know where you belong.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity to ask my unanswered questions. There are two of them, and I think these questions have to do with the system in UK. I don't know how much we can influence the decisions. The first one has to do with NHS recommendations. One or two of the speakers have mentioned, NHS recommendation, this recommendation. Take, for example, sleep 9 hours per day. If you are a nurse in UK, that is practically impossible, especially if you are doing 7:30 to 8 o'clock. If these recommendations are there and they are really, really needed, why is the system being fashioned in a way that it works against the recommendations? Secondly, we talk of, we have been told that we shouldn't go for the cheapest things on the shelf, and that is very timely. But the question is, if the government knows that some things are not good for the citizen because they are cheap, with all the standardization procedures we have in UK, at least, if it is Africa now, we'll probably say, one of those. But here, why is the government still allowing cheap and useless things to remain on the shelf?
Okay, just before I pass that on to the speaker, Rosalind's going to take the first one and Olamide will take the second one. From leadership perspective and in line with NHS processes or policy with regards to your working hours, again, is your choice. We've got flexible requests. We can all do earlys where you can work from 7:30 through to 8:30 to 3:30. I'm a matron and I oversee all the rosters. So it's important that you make that decision today, or you can work from 12 to 8. Again, if you want to sleep for 9 hours, meaning if you want to sleep 9 hours, you can do 12 to 8 o'clock. And once you go to bed, you can wake up at 9 and do another late shift. Or you can do an early shift, which is 7:30 to 3:30, and you can work 5 days. That is that. But if you choose to work 7:30 through to 8 o'clock, again, you can discipline yourself to forget about mobile phone, your social media. Once you get home, do whatever, prioritize your family, then go to bed. You can still achieve those hours of working. Again, I'm talking about the flexible request by doing it, working every other day. But when you are working bank shifts or working extra hours, that will be difficult to achieve. I'm speaking from leadership perspective. So we have what we call flexible requests. And everyone here needs to embrace the health roster where you can self-request your duties. Thank you. So I'll give it over to Rosalind.
So what I wanted to explain is about, first of all, let's look at the body mass index. So my colleague was asking Nancy to explain what is the significance of body mass index. And I've had a lot of people ask me several questions about that. So body mass index actually is looking at my height and then my weight and then calculating that to see whether I am the right weight. Now here is the thing. I am the right weight for my height. It is not the other way around. So am I the right weight for my height? Which means that if assuming that I was taller than I am, if I was taller than I am, if they calculate my BMI, it will be less than currently as I am. So I am 160 and then I weigh 62. So my BMI is around 22, 23 thereabout. Now, so you heard what I said, 22, 23 thereabout. That is slightly tipping me to, because 24.9 is the cutoff for healthy. So here is the question. I remember I used to weigh 74. And then when I went to my GP said I was overweight. I looked at my GP and I thought, you're joking, right? What do you mean I am overweight? Then the GP said yes. So there was a patient coming up from the GP's office, but she was Caucasian. She was about 2 times my size. So I said to my GP, I said, excuse me for asking, the patient who just left and myself, who is overweight? She says, you. Huh? The reason being that Afro-Caribbean, we have large muscle mass. Our bone density is also bigger than Caucasians. Now, the question people have asked me, Rosalind, does that mean that we have to have a different BMI? And I said, look at the end point. Who are the ones getting diabetes? Afro-Caribbean. Who are the ones getting hypertension? Afro-Caribbean. So sometimes people will argue to say, Rosalind, don't talk about my weight or don't talk about, and I said, I don't want to talk about it, but I'm looking at who are the people getting all these long-term, who are the people prescribed with 100 tablets? The worst I saw was a patient prescribed with 21 tablets. I didn't know whether to cry. And the key thing is that we hold the key. I know that body weight, so last week we were talking about this with Rachel. Body weight is a very sensitive issue. Not just for women, but it is also for men. So body weight is a very sensitive issue. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, why should my body weight then lead me to taking 5 tablets? So I need to look at, are there things that I can do to actually bring this body weight down? One patient said to me, that doctor said I should go and lose weight. What he's actually saying to me is that my husband should divorce me. I don't know whether what I said, whether it makes sense. Because as far as that woman is concerned, her husband loves her the way she is, and the husband doesn't like skinny women. So she losing weight means that the husband is going to divorce her. So it's a very sensitive issue, and it isn't something that either the man or the woman alone can take. It's something that we have to look at it from the perspective of, how healthy do I look? And do I want to grow up to see my children, my grandchildren? That is what we have to look at in terms of body weight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just quickly, because of our time, address the second question. So my recommendation was not to go to the stores and shop the most expensive things. There are 2 extremes to everything, and what we like to be is to be in the middle, which is the best place to be. Okay, so my recommendation is not that the best things are the most expensive things. That's not my recommendation. My recommendation is when we're shopping for things like toothbrushes and toothpaste, there are things that we don't necessarily make a priority in our shopping. We shop more. If you want to buy perfumes, we take a lot of time to select the type of perfume that suits our style. Same with our clothing and stuff. But when we're talking about buying toothbrushes and toothpaste and bed sheets and all that, we just pick whatever we see at the store that is easily handy and within our price points. So my recommendation is when next we're going to shop for our toothbrushes and toothpaste, that we're just mindful of what we're shopping for. Some of us, for instance, have tooth sensitivity, but Sensodyne is a very popular brand that helps with tooth sensitivity, but some people would not want to buy it because it's a bit pricier than some of the other home other brands that may not be in that price range. So my recommendation is dependent on what your health need is and what your health requirements is. Just keep that in mind when you're shopping for these items. Let's not just neglect them like they do not matter because we're trying to save pounds and save pennies. When at the end of the day, if God forbid some circumstances develop, we would spend more on things that we could have prevented. So that's my recommendation. So I'm not saying when you leave here, go and buy the most expensive toothpaste. It may not be necessary for you. But just remember what your health needs are, what you want to accomplish, and just keep that in mind when you're shopping for those items. Thank you.
So we'll take our last question. Then the floor will be open after prayer for you to meet with any of our speakers with regard to any burning issues.
Good afternoon. I'm not really it's not really a question, more like an observation, and it's to do with the BMI issue. This BMI, is it applicable to us from Afro-Caribbean? Because the reason why I'm saying that is when I've been to my GP and they're telling me about BMI, if I go by what they say, you will not see me at all. So, you know, and I'm thinking that can't be realistic with my cultural, the way I'm not Caucasian, I'm an African woman. We're supposed to have some body parts from our way. So it's like, this is not real. So, and I'm thinking, is it just, are they looking at it from the Caucasian high, not really about putting our cultural DNA into question? And also, the second part is about, we're talking about BMI. You can be skinny, but that doesn't mean you're healthy. Because I've seen a lot of skinny people with lots of health condition, diabetes, and high blood pressure as well. So it's about feeling healthy. It's about, like you said, doing the right thing. So I just want, you know, to clarification with that BMI thing. Because I've stopped listening to BMI because I'm thinking, you want me to disappear.
Thank you very much. So you were right in saying that being skinny does not necessarily mean that you are healthy. Yes, I also have friends who are skinny who have other long-term conditions. Now, it does not also necessarily mean that being overweight means that you have a lot of health issues. However, when we look at who are the ones who are at increased risk of developing diabetes, who are the ones who are at increased risk of developing hypertension, who are even the ones who are at increased risk of developing certain cancers, it always, when we measure it, always looked at people who are overweight. That is why it looks as if we emphasize a lot on maintaining that healthy weight. But then, yes, you're also right thinking, hang on, if I have to drop down to my weight, it means that I will not be seen or I cannot see myself. But it is looking at, am I healthy? Do I have any underlying long-term condition? And that particular condition that I have, what would I look at that in terms of 5 years? Also, what I want us to also think about is that my current weight as it is, regardless of whatever age I am, would not tell how that same weight will be when I get to a certain age. So I have seen people who are overweight and within their 30s and 40s, they're okay. By the time they hit the 50s and the 60s, they start bending. And then by the time they hit towards the end of the 50s, they are now chair-bound or wheelchair-bound. Not because they have any other condition that is making them wheelchair-bound, but it is just that their knees are no longer able to support the weight that they are bearing. Additional weight also puts a lot of weight on our knee joint. So our knee joint is a ball and a socket. And what happens is that when this weight up here becomes too much, there is a lot of pressure. So these bones start crushing against each other. And I've seen somebody who is just in his early 50s and knee replacement simply because of the weight. So as much as it is a sensitive issue and somebody said, an African woman, you have to touch meat. Yeah, that's what somebody said. And as an African woman, you have to touch meat. It is fine. We look rounded, we look pear-shaped, we look that. But we have to look at what effect is that having for us in terms of the long term. Okay, so because we tend to get fixated about the BMI, but it is looking at, am I actually healthy? And I think my colleague Rachel wants to say something because we've discussed this a lot about BMI, so she wants to say something.
Sorry, I am very passionate about BMI, and that is why I asked my colleague Nancy. As long, don't think about that big word, BMI, BMI. Don't confuse your brain. As long as you can't bend right, you can't hold your back, you can't lift your knees. You understand? Those key things tell us that your weight and height are not all measurable. They are not all up to place. They are not syncing up. So that is what BMI is about. I am a public health specialist. She is a nurse. They will talk about those mathematical things, but for us, we talk about the practical things. Can you sit? Can you kneel? I come from Uganda and our men need to be knelt for. Can I kneel for that husband? Can I lay down? You understand? So if your weight cannot allow you do that, if your height cannot allow you do that, then think about your BMI. Okay?
What a way to explain BMI. We are going to test all of us by tomorrow. Sister Moji, I'll start with you. Can you bend? Can you kneel? All right. After all said and done, again, like I said earlier, we need God. So I would like to call on Pastor. You know, on Sunday, I was saying something about women that we've demonized, he demonized our hormones. He says, all these demon, I will say menopause, it is demon. Pastor, come and help us send the demon out. Okay, sir. But we still need to send all of them out.
I don't cast out demon. That is not my work. And don't misquote me. Okay? What I'm telling you is that don't let your hormones, because you are menopausal, you are your period time, and you say your hormones are changing and it's affecting your marriage. Many of these hormone changes affect marriages because your husband does not understand. So what I'm saying is that you have the power in the name of Jesus to contain those hormone changes so that you can have a happy home. So that's my message. Women, have I done wrong? So I'm not demonizing anything. Amen. What a wonderful time. Can we just clap our hands and appreciate this kind of a meeting? And I want to thank God for those of you that are here. You see, one of the things that is killing the body of Christ is lack of knowledge. A lot of people are not here now, and they need this kind of information. My people perish for lack of information. And I want to thank God for your life that you have knowledge. You have come to add to your knowledge. I've gained a lot of knowledge here today. And I want to appreciate all the speakers that have spoken today. In this ministry, the month of April is always our health month. Everything we're talking about is health. We pray about it. We talk about it. And it has really helped us. The one we did last year, a lot of people that were diagnosed for some things or the other, I want to thank very well. You've really helped at King's College. You've handled a lot of cases for us there. And today they are okay, to the glory of God. So it's not everything we need to be doing prayer. And even in the medical world, by the grace of God, I sit on the board of a big pharmaceutical company. And what the medical world is looking at now is preventive. And everything we've done here today is preventive. But our people, black people, we like curative. And when the problem comes, then they'll be running about. So, I think we're going home with a good knowledge. And I pray that we keep it. And I will check the way I eat my eba and pounded yam around 1 a.m. but I don't go to bed immediately. So I do my exercise by praying. But I will look into it from what I've learned here today. So thank you everyone for coming. And if you have the time, you can also join us tomorrow. We continue tomorrow. There are some of the speakers on that leaflet that you have that they've not spoken, but we are mindful of time. So they will be, one of them will be speaking tomorrow morning by 10:30 a.m. If you're free, you can come and just partake of this knowledge, and the Lord will help us. Shall we pray? And before I pray, let me appreciate Nancy Igbolushe. Come on. And our team. In this ministry, we do a lot of knowledgeable things to help people with their health issue. So we have a team here that's called the medical team, and she's the head. And we have a room upstairs that is our medical room, first aid, bed, anything you need in case of emergency. There's only one thing you have not gotten for me, the defibrillator.
Oh, defibrillator.
Said you should get that. Yeah. Cardiac. We don't pray to have anything, but I just want to be equipped. I'm not an illiterate pastor, so I want everything to be there. Thank you very much for putting this together year upon year, and it's getting better. And may God continue to uplift you and take you to the top in the mighty name of Jesus. Shall we just have a word of prayer? Father, we thank you for what you have done today. Thank you for this knowledge you have impacted on us. Thank you for the people that you have used. Lord, I pray that as they have honored you and they have come to speak to us, may you honor them and lift them up in the mighty name of Jesus. I pray that anyone with any condition, either diagnosed or not, that the healing hand of God, the balm in Gilead, will touch such a person, and they shall be healed in the mighty name of Jesus. That the hand of God will touch you and will heal you in the name of Jesus. All these preventive measures, the grace to do them, to apply them to your daily life, may the Lord give unto you in the mighty name of Jesus. I cover everyone in the blood of Jesus. As you go, may your report be a good report in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, Father Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Like I told you in the morning, Nancy, make sure people who came early do their screening first. I know the latecomers. If I see them on queue, I'm going to take them off myself. God bless you.